Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 157 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I'm joined by the renewed 2024 Lord Cognito. Welcome back, sir. I mean, we didn't really miss a beat. We were here the whole time, but this is our first episode returning from our multi-week break. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, this is actually, we haven't missed a beat technically, right? But this is our first one back. I'm hanging in there. Not the greatest start to my new year, as we talked before we went live and everything. But yeah, I don't know, just like a little flu bug going on. I have my theories. I was doing good during most of the break, but just a slow reoccurring cough that just wouldn't go away. And normally, I don't know about you, but I don't know if you do flu shot or not, but I have a theory. Do you? Yes or no?
Yeah. Like, it depends. I'm picky with it. Like, if I got something going on, I always get sick from these shots. So it's not like I'm anti-flu shot. It's more like, I know I'm going to get sick, and I don't want to feel like I got the flu for even 24 hours. I'm good. I'm going to pass. I'll get it.
Bro, it's so funny because like maybe the 1 or 2 years I got it, and like, everything was good. Like, I didn't really experience anything. The 2 years I haven't done it, which is now these two back to back, bro, it's been like the cough from hell. Like this cough that just will not go away and all type of stuff going on. So I've just been battling that. Now slowly turning the corner. So not my A game yet, but you'll bear with me today. But I'm slowly turning the corner, getting back to my normal self. But other than that, the break was much needed, and getting a chance to catch up on a lot of things and stuff like that. But what about you? How's things been for you during this little bit of time off?
Well, fret not, my friend. I had a little bit of a bump in the road to start the new year. I was putting a mason jar away, and it dropped in my whole hand. You can't really see it because they're just little paper cuts, but I had like tons of cuts all over my right hand. I'm like, dude, this is my mouse hand. Like, this can't happen to me. But we were good. Okay, hydrogen peroxide,
that's the content creator here.
Yeah, I know, right? It's my right hand, man. You gotta protect the right hand.
Protect the right, baby. Come on now.
But yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Like you said, the break was much needed. Just feeling refreshed and excited to be back. I normally when I leave, there's a bit of like, I'm gonna miss this, but I really didn't feel that heading into my break. I was like, we need this, and technically, I'm still off until the 8th. Like, this is the one content creation thing I'm doing, and then I'm taking more time off because I was like, I need that overabundance of time away. So I'm going to bask in these last few days. But yeah, man, I've been a total DJ these last couple of weeks. I have been gaming. I have been home for most of the time. I have done what little social obligations there were. We hosted a Christmas Eve party here where Laylee's family's huge. So it was like 30 people in the house. It was fucking nuts. So the first time hosting, and that was to everyone, just enjoy the peace and tranquility of your Christmas where your house is not loaded up with people and the stress leading into that day. Man, it was something else. But when it was all going, it was great. So it was worth
30
it.
though, that's a lot.
Yeah, she got a huge family. I have a family of like 5. Yeah, family of 5 versus 30. So yeah, definitely an imbalance there, but it was a really good time. Otherwise, just really hung out. I read a lot, wrote a lot, gamed a lot, and did nothing much else. And I was happy to do so. I didn't really check my numbers on YouTube or anything, which was something that was actually more difficult than I thought it'd be. Because there was that. I worked so hard on so many things that we're going to release during my break. I was like, man, I want to know what the people are saying. So I'm excited to get back and see how people are dealing with the content push from yours truly. But yeah, man, doing all right. And while we were away, as we start this new year, there have been some changes.
Yes.
That we shall talk about. So we have a new show here on Last Stand called Summon Sign, a gaming conversation. And if you read the letter that went out over on patreon.com/laststandmedia, you can also sign up there to get early access to this show and the many others we have there. You will have learned that DDU is no more. No more Defining Duke Ultimate. We have a Couple of write-ins here that I wanted to commemorate. So let's get into it. Lee's Cool Jenkins writes, "Hey Dukes, Happy New Year. Hope you had a great break and got some chill time in, but I gotta say, RIP DDU. I'm sure much of the LSM community is still reeling from the new show announcement and the scheduled change-up, which I'm very excited about, as we all are, but I gotta give a shout out to DDU. I fully understand and support Colin and your decision to sunset the podcast. However, I will miss it, and some of my favorite moments from you two have come on Ultimate. I just wanted you to know, I just wanted you to know what your favorite episodes / moments of DDU have been over the years. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have Adam Bulgarby who writes in, "Hey Dukes, the Cobra Commander himself announced that you're done with DDU. I fully understand the decision. While it's sad to see, I'm happy for all the great episodes we had. So we know that the spoiler type content will go have its home with Brad on Summon Sign. But what about the interviews? I really enjoyed the interview with Craig Lay about Minecraft Legends. Good. Of course, there was Josh Sawyer for Obsidian. Will interviews be sandwiched into the main show, or are they out of the question now? Wishing you both a genuinely amazing 2024, and I can't wait to see Dukes on Summon Sign, which not too much longer for that, I'll say. Yeah. But yeah, when it comes to content on DDU, we'll throw out a memory in a moment there, but I just want to make sure people know what we're doing. It's one of those things where it was less of a, and I don't mean like Colin overruled when I say this, but it was less of a choice and more of an understanding. Like, this show is not performing well. We have Brad coming in. I feel like I got to use the word, it's an Xbox word. Every acquisition LSM makes is a different type of statement. Like, I think when myself and Carrick entered with the Xbox podcast, it was a statement that people can work with Colin in a meaningful way, and that Last Stand is more than Colin. And in a good way, I mean that. And then I think with like COG, I think it was like, we're going to lift up voices that otherwise aren't being heard as often as they should be. And now you're like on a whole other level. And then I think with someone like Gene, it was like, look, the press is recognizing where things are going and they need to start pursuing more independent endeavors. And I think Brad was, again, a sign that a lot of these gaming Patreons and whatnot, it's sink or swim right now. Yeah, and some of them are sinking, and you'd be wise to jump ship if it's sinking. And I think Brad was smart to do that. And I'm really looking forward to working with him and whatnot. So with that understanding, like, I feel like you got to be a team player at LSM. And so I was not going to be so overly protective of a product that did not do as well as we wanted to, where it would impact someone else. So it was less of a conversation and more of like an agreed, almost unspoken understanding, to my memory at least, that like, yeah, DDU was going to get sunset. Like, I think Colin pitched the idea and I was like, yeah, let's just do that, because I'm in agreement with some of the audience. We were talking in Defining Duke chat a little bit. I chimed in during the announcement of Summon Sign, and I just said, like, yeah, I think it was a show that was really tough to get going for a number of reasons. Some were my own fault. Some were because of the nature of LSM in general, whether it be like guests not wanting to come on because it's LSM, or guests wanting to go on Sacred Symbols Plus over Defining Duke Ultimate. And so there became a bit of a pecking order, because like we couldn't get high profile guests as often as we wanted. Yeah. And definitely sometimes it would also bleed, I'd say, some of the main product dry in DD, where I had talked to Dustin and Colin, and they had been under the understanding of like, that's why we switched originally to bi-weekly, is I was like, we're doing too much and we're not strengthening the main thing. And when we pulled DDU back, our main show grew a lot. And so 2023 is the best year for Defining Duke. And so I think without DDU, we get to strengthen this more. To answer Adam's question about future content, spoiler casts are going to live on Summon Sign. So we're going to have our review discussions and whatnot there. Our What We're Playing section is still going to be here in this show. It's important for us. I know Colin said it's less important for Sacred, but like here on Defining Duke, we like to talk a lot about the games we are playing. Sometimes it's the longest segment of the show. So we like to sit down and do that a lot. We're not going to be on Summon Sign every week, so we're going to keep doing that. So do not worry. None of the structure of our main show is changing. As for interviews, I spoke with Colin about that just a few days ago, just to pick his brain a bit. And I think what's going to probably happen is it's going to have to be case by case. Like, let's say I have to talk pie in the sky for a moment. Let's say we get like Phil Spencer, Todd Howard. We would be the news that week. And I would probably consider, to strengthen the main show, like, let's put this on Defining Duke and like make a statement, right? Right. Other figures in the industry, it might have to be, I'm using a lot of Xbox terminology this section, but like case by case. Case by case basis. And what I mean by that is
places when where Defining Colin, Duke exists.
Yes, right? I asked him if Sacred Symbols Plus would be the place, because Sacred Symbols Plus, I said, is I feel like the identity of that platform, that program, is high profile interviews. And he was like, yeah, totally. And he wants to work less, and we want to create a better balance here at LSM. So that's probably what's going to happen. Not probably, that is what's going to happen. You're going to see DD kind of content might bleed into Sacred Symbols Plus, because Sacred Symbols is just like Defining Duke, in the sense that while we have our biases and our focuses for the particular shows, they're a gaming platform first and foremost. So if like we can get a high profile Xbox figure and talk to them on Sacred Symbols Plus, like that's what we're going to do. I don't have interest in making Defining Duke as a show this 4 or 5 hour marathon. I say with all due respect to the Sacred Boys, it's just not what I want to do with the show. So I don't want to do like our full news spiel and what we're playing, and then here's an interview, and jam that in. Yeah. I also don't want to trim the content egregiously so that we can squeeze an interview and rush important topics. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what it's come down to, is yes, we lose the platform. It makes things a little weird. Like, we'll use Josh Sawyer as an example. Why is Josh Sawyer, an Obsidian guy, on Sacred Symbols Plus? No doubt that'll be a dumb question someone asks, but we'll just have to rock with it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's going on with DDU related content. Just Cog, as a wrap up, is there any favorite memory for you when it comes to that show?
Yeah, so many. Actually, the cool thing about it, when it existed, was more of a refined, kind of like a very concentrated effort on one specific topic. Obviously the Josh Sawyer thing definitely was one that really resonated. Obviously, our man Craig Lay from Minecraft, our boy from BioWare. I thought he was really cool. Why am I blanking on his name right now?
Oh, Mark Dara.
Mark Dara, yeah, Mark Dara. He had some very unique takes and stuff on the industry, and gave us good perspective, I felt, on how like the industry really works and stuff like that. And then honestly, sometimes just us two riffing on like very specific topics. I remember like we brought in, I liked our SEGA one. We broke down like SEGA and Super Game, and where SEGA was going during the whole, hey, SEGA is, it's only cloud phase. Remember during that? Yeah, we broke down the slides and stuff like that. That was really cool. And probably the last one I would say that I really resonated was, I think it was a whole law one. And this was right during the heart of the ABK drama, right? It's going on. And I remember specifically, this is the one that blew me away. I'm like, okay, so, all right, if they acquired them, right? And this is this $1 billion acquisition, this is it, right? That now puts a kibosh on it. And he was just like, no. And he broke down everything as to why, one, it would embolden them, and two, the financial aspect of why something much lesser would now be easier, so to speak, of a future acquisition and things like that. Yeah. So I always felt those were cool. They were fine. Of course, I will miss it a little bit, but I do agree with the decision. I feel like at the end of the day, it made Duke better. Then we were kind of stretched a bit, because remember, now we're doing Stelly, summoning science coming, that kind of thing. So to me, ultimately, it was the correct decision, but it's really cool to see people that had an appreciation for it. But what about you? Any specific ultimate? I'm going to miss doing this, though. I ain't going to feel like this was my thing. When I go to Ultimate Warrior, I miss that. I'm going to miss that
You can still do the Ultimate
I'm going to still
Warrior.
do it. I'm going to do it in reference for it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the pay homage, right?
Yes, pay homage.
I'd say my favorite memory had to do, I just loved bringing on guests. And I feel like that could be something that is brought into Defining Duke in general, is that now what happened is sometimes I would, like Cog, you and I would talk behind the scenes. I'd have like a guest target and it would be good for the main show, but I was like, well, we got to do something for DDU, and like we can't just piss out an episode. So like, okay, let's try to do something over there with this guest. And like now it slims the focus, where maybe we could bring that energy here when it's topically sensible. But I think for me, it's just the plethora of guests. And I remember we brought on Mike Rose from No More Robots. That was when the show first began.
Forgot about that.
That was awesome. Yeah, because I got to pick the brain of someone, like during the real rise of Game Pass, of someone who, by the way, to this day is still like, we put everything on Game Pass. So it was really interesting to be there at the beginning of that and get to get some thoughts on that, and not like this PR coded type of statement, but like just very open, transparent conversation on Game Pass in its, I think, very important growing phase. Mark Dara, as someone who's a diehard BioWare fan, like that was really cool. Josh Sawyer, that was intimidating. Like I remember, I'll say it to everyone, like, look, when he first joined the call, vibes were trash. I was like, man, I'm kind of nervous. Like, what? Like, is he not feeling the Dukes? And he gradually opened up, and by the end we were having a really good time. But like that was like one of those moments where it was like, this is a tough nut to crack. Like not everyone's immediately like, right? He was doing an interview tour, so he was on a ton of shows before us. So I totally understood. But it was like, it was a good challenge, and I liked the challenge. I used to get really nervous for interviewing people. People may remember a few years ago I did a Fallout 4 panel where Courtney Taylor had reached out to me. She was the female main character voice in Fallout 4. She had reached out to me and said like, hey, we should do like a Fallout 4 cast reunion. I'd love to do it on your channel. And like, it was this awesome idea. The fact that she thought of me was so cool. And so we got everyone together, from like Matt Mercer to Katie Townsend to just everyone was there for the most part. And, I remember when I sat down to do that, the show started up, it was live, and my heart was beating a mile a minute, and I blacked out while I was doing the intro. And I swear to God, I don't remember what the fuck I said. I just hope it came out really well. I remember like my face was on fire. That used to be like my approach to interviews, is like, don't fuck it up. And I'd feel like I fucked it up. And so DDU was a really good personal challenge for me to like, I guess, get into that process more. And now it's less nerve wracking for me. Like I remember a similar thing kind of happened years ago. I did a collab with SkillUp, who's one of my favorite YouTubers, and I was like really nervous for it. I told him I was like, dude, afterwards I was like, I was shitting my pants during that. But then I did a collab with him and Jake Baldino, and like I was cool as a cucumber. I was like, okay, so this has been like really vital for me growing as a person and as a creator, where the people I admire don't scare the shit out of me so much now. So that was kind of my best memory of DDU. It really brought me a lot of personal growth, because I took inspiration from Colin. I saw what he was doing. I was like, you know what, like if I'm going to lead the charge here in some degree, like I gotta be better. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for what it brought, because I think it made me and Cog better at what we do. Especially I took notes from you, Cog. You're a fantastic interviewer. So like that was another thing I had to take note of. I was like, dude, like, because I watched Iron Lords. I'm like, dude, this guy is like so in tune. He's just always asking the right questions. I'm like, am I as good of a listener as I want to be? So it was a really good growth exercise, if anything at all. Bro, so I'm happy we did it. We ended it on Starfield, which I thought was kind of fitting, kind of poetic in a way. I didn't really think of it that way, but when I was picking the final episode, I was like, may as well go out with like one of our longest DDUs with Rand talking about Starfield, which is one of the biggest games for Xbox. So it felt like a good fitting conclusion, and I'm really happy about that. So that's my favorite memory of DDU. We appreciate everyone listening, and you'll see us more on Constellation. You'll see us more on Summon Sign, and of course that'll strengthen what we're doing here on Defining Duke. And I think having less supplemental shows and more core shows should always be the goal here. So I'm very excited for the future of LSM in 2024.
Agreed.
Anything else, or shall we move along?
Just shout out to Chris Raygun and any Halo Infinite related DUs. Those are always good too. And Ains, absolutely. I think we had Ains on for one that was with him as well. Absolutely.
All right. Other thing that changes, I have to log timestamps now. So if you see me typing a lot during our show, just a warning. I don't know how, like, we're feeling this out. I'm saying this as a warning. I don't know how airtight this shit's going to be. I'm going to try my best, but also like we do Cog and I will talk for like a minute before the show. So I'm not going to try to do math mid-show and be like, oh, do I subtract 1 minute here, 2 minutes here? Sometimes we take a piss break. So I'm just going to kind of feel out the timestamps, and I might have to like hop into the audio individually, because Ben is moving to like clips and shorts and all that stuff. So we're not doing like fine audio editing. So yeah, it's just, it's on us to do the timestamps. So just wish me luck here, and apologies.
I can yell out stamp.
Yeah, there you go. There's a stamp right there. Boom. So, all right, well, 1925 is what I'm marking as. All right, let's move on along here. We have an Insomniac leak to get into, Cog. So we picked a hell of a week to go away, because we literally say, all right, deuces everyone. And one of the most, I shouldn't say leak, one of the most high profile gaming hacks occurs. And I know the question we always get when, as an Xbox podcast, is like, what are you doing? This is a PlayStation news thing, but make no mistake that there is a lot of things that pertain to Xbox here, from PlayStation Plus 3.0. We're going to talk about the fear within PlayStation of Microsoft following the ABK acquisition. We have a lot of write-ins from the audience. Xbox is no affiliation at all with X-Men until 2036, and much, much more. So we're going to park it on this one for quite a while here. No doubt the Sacred Boys will do diligence on this for weeks and weeks to come, like we did with like the FTC court documents. So we're going to cover it in what makes sense for the realm of Xbox. But of course, if you want the big deep dive, head over to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. So Cog, let's start off with this.
Yo.
There is a proposed PlayStation Plus 3.0, which aims to bring the service to mobile, PC, and even do game streaming on mobile, smart TVs, and browsers. They're even considering leveraging subscription leader partnerships and third-party gaming subscriptions to elevate said service. There is also a fear within PlayStation that Microsoft will be able to, quote, leapfrog, end quote, the current, quote, Sony pillars, end quote, following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, one thing I need to make extremely clear as I read this sort of stuff is this is their verbiage within leaked documents via hack. This is not like an Xbox twist. This is coming straight from the horse's mouth, Sony, PlayStation. And I think that's really important to know here because they are now afraid of Xbox, which I don't think previously they were. Particularly combined with Game Pass, Sony sees it as a massive threat to PlayStation Plus that could result in $1.5 billion annually being lost in revenue that Sony does make from this service. With these slides, Sony does admit that their PlayStation pillars are already dated and behind the competition, which is also a shocking admission. So we'll pause with these two bullet points here. We have a write-in here from Mr. Scott. If you're nasty, who says, Duke boys, welcome to 2024, gentlemen. I hope you're well rested and had great times with your family and friends. I know it's Xbox Pod, but I think we need to talk about those Insomniac leaks. One, what is going on with the news media? There might not be attacks, but there's definitely something going on with major personalities and publications refusing to report the news. Weird, yes? Two, these AAA budgets are getting crazy. I'm sure that had to factor into Xbox's decision to pivot to a different model, as PlayStation model does not look sustainable. And three, PlayStation sounded alarmed with Xbox's strategy and claimed the competition was ahead of them in their pillars. It seems that these companies are really going in different directions. What are your thoughts, guys? Great to have you back. Have a nothing major will happen when we're away kind of day. So, Cog, of course, wherever you want to start here, I think one of the most important talking points to just set the table beyond the news is the ethics of covering the Insomniac hack. There were many outlets who refused to cover this. There were many gaming channels who refused to cover this. And I'm wondering for you, as we get ready to talk about it, how you feel about the situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, obviously what happened to them is unfortunate. Obviously, we all love Insomniac. No studio should go through what they went through. It was awful. Obviously, I'm always going to be pro-dev. And yeah, to see them threatened and to see the whole thing leak like that, terrible. Again, now I have to be honest, right? In prior situations, I mean, the Capcom leak that just happened where personal information was leaked, we covered it. A lot of these same outlets, they covered it, right? We've had numerous leaks in situations like this where in breaches, where it's been covered. So to me, and I got to use my man Jez Gordon's word, the pearl clutching now because it's Insomniac, to me is a bit strange because again, no one is happy that this happened, but we also have to be honest that there is really pertinent information for people like us sometimes that don't have the inside on what's actually going on in the industry, what's really making things tick, how do the finances work. This is really informative stuff. So, to me, man, I'm never going to be on the side of, all of a sudden, whether it be because of my closeness to the studio that, we're not going to cover, or you just need to be honest about, that, and say, hey, because of my closeness to the studio, I'm not going to cover it. So that part was a little weird to me, to be honest. As an industry, we've always done this kind of stuff, especially if you consider yourself a journalist or what have you. So that was that. But as far as the leaks themselves, man, wow.
Stunning.
A lot here. I guess the big shocker to me was the threat stuff because we got to be honest, Maddie, what we've always been told is Game Pass sustainable, right? Is Microsoft's strategy the right strategy? And you are getting information from Sony, not from a trial where they're trying to feign strength and look a certain way. These are the raw words of them behind the scene that we were not supposed to see, right? Mm-hmm. So what they say is, look, they consider, not only do they consider the Game Pass a major threat, they are talking about they could be leapfrogged, right? from their current day. And they also said their current pillars are outdated and behind the competition. So you talk about the expansion to mobile, the PC, all that kind of stuff. To me, it really put light on the unsustainability of these AAA gaming budgets that they have. So it's an expression to me.
Experimenting with that. They were considering 2 parts for Spider-Man.
2 parts of Spider-Man.
Which, if you ask me, I think Spider-Man 2 is part 1. I'm sorry with how much sequel setup is across the story, the side quests. That felt like part 1 of a story to me. So yeah. I feel they were like, why not just put it on the box next time?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So to me, it's like it was always interesting to me when people would say, they were so worried about and so concerned about, again, sustainability of Xbox. Like, this to me is the primal expression. Like, don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. Because this right here, I think Sean Layden even said, I put out a tweet from Sean Layden just recently. He literally, his words are being prophetic right now. He said this on his way out.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, these budgets are crazy. This is not sustainable. And that's what showed me 300. And then not only was it 300 plus million for Spider-Man, you see how much money they have to give to Marvel on these, bro.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, and again, not saying they didn't make any revenue, but it goes to show you cannot keep this up. So they're looking at raising prices potentially again. I don't know if you saw that part, right?
Yeah.
Splitting things into different parts, like you said, and then obviously I'm trying to improve their service. So this was very eye-opening to me. And then the last thing I have to say, I thought was a little messy, but I thought it was interesting that they thought Hellblade was like this pinnacle of graphical fidelity that they want to, and this is Insomniac. I'm like, damn, it's like y'all got things going on, and y'all was like, no, Hellblade 2. That looks.
When we first saw that was at the Game Awards a couple of years ago, and we made a whole show just based around that, and just you're more of a graphics guy than me, but even I was like, this is incredible looking. Yeah, it still looks that way. The difference between the real time and you're like, man, this looks almost lifelike kind of thing. So look, I got more to say. I can go on, but I'm definitely curious because I haven't got a chance to speak to you at all during this stuff, and I'm curious, like, what did you get from all of this in general? And it just seemed like more information was coming out, all the time with this stuff. Yeah, I want to speak just briefly on the morals surrounding this hack and covering it, because I get why people would want to protect Insomniac, because they're a studio that has an insane output. They've done so much for the industry. There's a history there. They're storied, and people want to protect them. And obviously their developers have been very out there, very communicative and interactive. So there's more relationships. And because of that, you're seeing what comes with that. And you're seeing that a lot of people will choose to protect those relationships instead of doing their job. Like Cog said, what happened to Insomniac is horrible. It's horrible that their information is out there. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that when there was the Capcom leak or hack, that there was every outlet under the sun without hesitation. And all I'm saying,
the Microsoft one as well.
Yeah, the Microsoft one was by their own hand.
By their own hand, true.
But again, there was no hesitation. And I'd use that one less as an example personally, but I get where you're coming from. To me, what I tell people to do is just pay attention. Pay attention, okay? Not that if someone is not covering this because they've chosen not to, that immediately they're bad, but like, okay, look, if you're in the fucking game, for example, and you've chosen not to cover it, right? Like, to me, that is a horrible red flag, and that should bring question from the audience. And I'm sorry to say it, because I know I don't roll like that, but that's the type of stuff you have to be on the lookout for, because it comes across disingenuous.
Right.
And it's weird how game journalism works compared to any other journalistic property on the planet, right? You think about like massive leaks that happen, like the Pentagon, that are covered by the press. But here we are not covering Insomniac video game stuff. It's strange to me. It's weird, and I don't think it's acceptable. That doesn't mean go spread the personal information part.
Yeah,
but I think
absolutely.
There is an understanding that this stuff will make the rounds, and I don't understand how you avoid it. These, if the timelines are even mildly accurate, most of this stuff is years out, dude. And when I look at that, I'm like, you can't just tiptoe around this. It's going to come up again and again. And not only that, you are now officially behind the conversation if you just ignore it, because it is important context for every move PlayStation makes and related to Insomniac for years to come. And obviously things will change. We're actually going to talk about Xbox later and how plans can change pretty drastically, mind you. But I'd imagine, like, for example, Insomniac being borderline a full-on Marvel studio now is like set in stone.
Yeah.
And that does set the table for what to expect from PlayStation for the next generation or so in that regard. And it sucks that Insomniac had those moments taken from them, because
that sucks.
I'll say one thing, for example, is like Wolverine. Like, I thought it was just gonna be a Wolverine game. To see it's turning into like a whole X-Men thing and what, like, crazy, right? So I feel horrible for them that the moment has been taken away. But I think it's important to, in such an a industry that's so desperate to leave information out, that when we finally get our hands on the key stuff that makes us understand gaming as a business, we can't afford to ignore it. Otherwise, we will never mature and grow as an industry. And that's how I feel about it. But enough of that. I want to talk about really the nature of what information we have here. The proposed PlayStation Plus 3.0 I found fascinating, because I mean, that's literally the Game Pass strategy through and through, minus day one exclusive releases. They're literally, everything is there, from let's bring it to mobile, which they have already, right? Let's bring it to PC. Sorry, when I say they, I mean Xbox. PC. Let's do game streaming. Let's elevate subscription leader partnerships, right? Remember, Xbox teamed up with, for example, Crunchyroll, Disney Plus. You sign up, you get like a month of Disney Plus for free around the time of this big show coming out. Elevating using third-party gaming subscriptions to elevate the service. EA Plus or EA Play. Yeah. PlayStation is literally looking at what Xbox is doing, and that's why I worry a little bit about their sustainability with their current business model, which I know it's been the opposite for a while. A lot of people are concerned about Xbox, and much of the argument against Xbox has been, oh, well, they're Microsoft's plaything. But I don't think that we need, number one, Xbox operates profitably in their own right, but also, like, they do get that added competitive advantage because they have Microsoft at their back. And I think it's foolish to just ignore that. They do get to operate and move differently. That is the advantage, and why the expectations for Xbox as a platform should be higher than really anyone out there, maybe next to Nintendo. But seeing that PlayStation is looking at that playbook is telling, because many people have resisted that. No, there's no way, like, PlayStation can't do that, but they are at least proposing another evolution of the service, which originally PlayStation Plus 2.0 with the game streaming and the built-in PS Plus library, like, it's right there, man. It's right there. And you kind of have this built-in thing that if you join the PlayStation ecosystem, you have a bunch of games, where it was different enough. You know, they had the focus on back compat, which is where I think they can really pull the rug out from Xbox. But yeah, they were getting close. And 3.0 is just getting to where Xbox is now. And that takes years and years of build up and tech and implementation, right? Like, when xCloud was first becoming a thing, really for the public use in 2021, I'd say, it wasn't fantastic until they really moved to Series X server blades. And then it really kicked up a notch. And, like, my fiance has been gaming a ton this holiday break. And dude, I didn't even realize when I came out, she's been streaming everything. She doesn't download anything.
Really?
Anything. I was like, dude, that's a defining Duke talking point. I was like, I gotta talk about that. I was like, that's incredible. There are so many people like that, though. But it was fascinating to see her use it that way, and that's how far it's come. And PlayStation streaming was questionable in the terms of quality. So Xbox has the Azure tech. They have this built-in framework that's built for this future. And I worry if PlayStation goes this route, that they'll be seen second fiddle. Whereas now with ABK in the fold, and now fear that Xbox can leapfrog them, they do admit here that their pillars are behind. This is something that I've kind of been indicating for the last year. Like, I have not played Horizon. I have not played much of God of War, not because they are bad games, but because it is a framework, that the style of game that all of these series have been fit into. And while they are fantastic in quality, I think they're recognizing that, like, oh, Xbox is going to have like something like Starfield, which I know people shit on for me saying that, and then something like Hellblade, which fits that PlayStation mold. Whereas I think if PlayStation were to have made Starfield, they would have stripped out the first-person mode and made it all third-person and built around that, because that's the DNA, right? I think that's the difference there. So that's how I look at it. Is I find it interesting that PlayStation is looking at the Xbox playbook, and feeling some sort of trepidation towards it, and also that they need to start getting on board with what they're doing because the industry is moving past $70 a pop for games. And I think that's going to, because it's getting so high in the terms of development costs, I think we're on our way to more smaller games. I think there's been a demand for a while. Like, do your Pentiments, do 10-hour, 15-hour games, and focus on that type of experience, which can still take a while to make. But, these massive time-soaking open world games I don't think a ton of people are demanding them as much as they once were. But sorry, I've been going on for a while. So
no, you're cooking. I think, it's very interesting, man. I think the other thing that, to me, that a lot of, pundits or people who make comments on, the success of PlayStation, and again, we're not degrading that. We're not trying to diminish that. Obviously, what is it? The numbers are like 3-to-1 console sales, right? And that no one's going to minimize that. But what it's showing me, if the quote unquote market leader is saying that what we have to shift or we're going to get leapfrog because of their services push, because of them acquiring Activision Blizzard King, right? That this is going to really put us in a bind. That goes to show you that, yes, the console sales isn't everything. That's how I look at it. Because if your strategy of 3-to-1 console, you should be sitting pretty. You should be up. We're doing it. We're killing the competition. We are fine. No, what it shows me is that the business is evolving and that you have to pivot. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. That is what this, to me, validated as well. And then also the thing I keep telling people, which is what I'm definitely going to toot my horn on. I told people the mobile situation is going to be critical. And that was another bullet point that they had on that, because I told people the first thing, remember when the deal got finalized? What was the first studio that Phil and the team went to?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then they said, in addition, Microsoft is building a mobile gaming store to compete with Apple and Google. If they pull that off, this is another tremendous source of revenue that can subsidize and facilitate all these other things, And the other thing I wanted to say, this is back to the initial point that you went on as far as covering the leaks and stuff like that. Because I forgot a major point that I happened. Obviously, I have a lot of developer friends in the industry, right? And I'm definitely pro-developer. It was a little beef behind the scenes, man.
Oh, really?
Beef, you know what I'm saying?
I was not tapped in during any of this. I saw it happen, and so the thoughts you got from me were just completely like,
no, you're good.
You're good. Raw, like nothing else.
No, you good. So basically, a lot of friends that we know, me and Attic are friends with a lot of developers. They were very outspoken. They were very upset, and they were low-key threatening. Like, yo, if you cover this, you dead to us. Really? So basically, I said, instead of doing some public back and forth and all of this stuff, and I get it, because if you're a developer and you see something that happened to one of your comrades, your colleagues, you're like, damn, that could happen to us, right? So, we're going to ride with Insomniac, and I get that. But I didn't take offense to if we see any talk about this, you dead to us. Like, that's not going to fly with me. So instead of, let's do it civil, let's have some behind the scenes discussion. And we had some talks, and thankfully, cooler heads prevail. So basically what the discussion was this. It was like, okay, but COG, you guys got to understand, it's signal boosting. It's this, that, and the third. And I said, okay, but what makes this any different than, like I said, the Capcoms, the Xboxes, all these other leaks that we've covered without any issue. So when we came to the middle ground was they were like, okay, well, COG, the way you guys do it, we technically don't have a problem because, like say, for example, in the title of Defining Duke, we haven't discussed this just yet, but in their mind, if we go screenshot the actual footage of Wolverine in the thumbnail, if we went, very specific thing in the title, then they feel, okay, that's really signal boost. And I said, okay, to some extent, I understand that, kind of thing. But if I'm going to put Insomniac leaks in the title, I'm going to put that kind of stuff. So that was kind of where we came to the middle ground, where it's like the finer details of the actual leak being exposed in the actual content. And we came to a middle ground there. But they did understand. They said, look, and I think Dinga said it best from Arcade. He said, look, we understand that you guys have a job. We're hurt by the situation, but we understand you guys have a job too, and we want to be respectful of that. It's just a very sensitive situation, but cooler heads did prevail, and we kind of reached that middle ground. But yeah, it was, bro, when you were away, it was war in these streets, man. I'm telling you right now. So yeah,
I thought, I thought a lot of here's the thing, like, I just feel we all have you have to have a good bullshit detector to do what you do here online. You have to, because so many people will use you until there's nothing left. And a lot of the grandstanding for Insomniac just came across as disingenuous. It just did not ring and resonate with me at all, like someone actually meant what they were saying, because it is an exclusive treatment here that they would be getting. And they're a special talent. Don't get me wrong. We have waxed poetic here and for years on how great Insomniac is. And they're a big part of my childhood. Like, absolutely. I have a ton of Ratchet and Clank games. They're special studio. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that type of special treatment should fly. I don't think it should. I'm not saying, again, that you spread every ounce of gameplay. I'm more so just advocating for the information that's out there to be discussed.
Absolutely.
Because it's out there and it's going to get discussed no matter what. So either be left behind or not. Xbox will not receive any X-Men affiliated titles or exclusive DLC until 2036. Nicholas Brillhart writes in, greetings, meaty gray fox and gender bent sniper wolf. I hope the holiday break was relaxing for you both, but now that you're back, we have some important things to discuss, and surprisingly, Banjo-Kazooie rumors aren't at the top of my list. We'll get to those later as well. Included in the leaked files from the Insomniac games was information on the terms of the Wolverine deal, and everything about it rubbed me the wrong way. They basically have Wolverine and related characters locked down for the foreseeable future, along with exclusive rights to guest appearances of all the characters and all, shout out to Zumba Spider-Man. It frankly rubs me the wrong way and has made me wish Microsoft hadn't gotten to bed or with the House of Mouse or with Blade. But my question is more about the type of contract itself. Is it possible these sorts of terms PlayStation has with other timed exclusives and marketing right partnerships, particularly Final Fantasy as a franchise? The amount of control PlayStation steals with this kind of deal is massive, but it doesn't seem too dissimilar from deals with Resident Evil, Destiny, Call of Duty, and more. Have a $567 in profit kind of day. Thank you for writing in, Nicholas. So, yeah, I think it was assumed that we would not see or sniff any level of X-Men on the Xbox platform when it was announced that Wolverine was going to be on PlayStation. However, I think I saw the license terms for the X-Men thing, and I thought, like, this was good to see because, by the way, there's no doubt Xbox is doing the same exact stuff, right? Like, remember what happened with Redfall, where, like, Harvey Smith was... someone said that there was a PS5 version and Xbox told them to cancel. I think it was Harvey Smith, and Xbox was like, no, we never did that. I'm like, okay, guys, like, come on.
All right, man.
Stop it. Don't lie to me like that, So no doubt Xbox is doing the same exact thing. Unfortunately for PlayStation, though, we got to see their side of things first in that regard, right? And, I think when it comes to PlayStation, it's something that we have commended them for in the terms of a business, is that they're smart. They've always had, like, they did Hogwarts Legacy exclusive marketing. They've done, of course, Marvel. They were the real leaders of the charge on Marvel gaming, really, when you look at it. Resident Evil, obviously all the JRPGs they have, like, they have tapped into every corner of what made their ecosystem strong, both in the current day and in the past. And that's why they maintain such brand loyalty from their fans, because it feels like PlayStation is still, like, growing while maintaining what is so important to those fans who joined them in the first place. So does it give them this kind of edge? Absolutely. And does it give them control? Absolutely. That's why they do it, because they want, for games that they can't buy exclusively, to still have that platform association, which is why they fought tooth and nail over Call of Duty. So yeah, I'm not too surprised we're not going to see any X-Men on Xbox, but a lot of Xbox fans were rubbed the wrong way about this. And I was kind of caught off guard, because I was like, Xbox is going to be playing the same. No doubt if we saw what is happening with Blade, I'm sure it's a similar, like, you're not going to see anything Blade related on PlayStation until X year, whenever this comes out. I don't know. But what do you think about all this, Cog?
To me, it's a bunch about nothing. I mean, I've always been pro-exclusive. I've always been that way. So exclusives and locking something down to your ecosystem is not a problem for me. I've always felt that's part of your brand identity. And I've always given PlayStation tons of credit in terms of having their finger on the pulse of the culture. And they make what I consider strategic moves, especially when your enemy has Game Pass and publishers now. Like, you're supposed to do things to make your platform attractive. So I have no problem with none of this, kind of thing. So, I get it. If you're a fan of X-Men and you're like, damn,
Sure,
just pick up a PlayStation. Like, I'm not going to miss out. So I'm not going to have this problem where this is some travesty for the industry.
Look,
yeah.
real quick. If PlayStation Plus 3.0 is a thing, you'll be able to play it off a PlayStation, just like we've said with Xbox. You'll get to stream it on your PC or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah,
everybody had it when Microsoft has had exclusive. All of a sudden, everybody had a PC. So you find your PC now if you don't want to, download the Wolverine or whatever and come out. Like, this is a bunch of nothing. And again, to me, this is war. This is warfare. This is what you're supposed to do. Again, I'm not going to McDonald's mad that there's not a Whopper in here. Like, I'm not going, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? I'm not into that. Like, so I get it. A lot of people hate exclusive content, some people, but I come from that era. This is how you fight. Oh, y'all did this? Okay, we doing this. All right, cool. We in the trenches. That's where I'm from. So
I think that's how it's got to be. Otherwise these consoles are all going to bleed together. And now I think they're, it looks like PlayStation may be following Xbox's footsteps more in the future, but right now they're certainly all three are marching to the beat of their own drum.
And last point, I want to give PlayStation credit. We have to give them credit. They've really done a fantastic job of making the superhero genre like really cool and high quality as opposed to most of the past. We only had like a few gems back in the day.
Yeah.
But like come on. So they're being rewarded and there's a relationship brewing. Salute to them.
100%. Yeah. Like they'd be foolish not to lock up more with how well Spider-Man 1 sold. I think there's like a thing that says that they have to, for their Marvel games, have to sell like 6 million units in the first year. Otherwise, like they can just tear up the contract. And I think they have to pay like $9 million to Marvel or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty cutthroat, but they're kind of, if you will, selling their soul to Marvel. Like they just see a lot of value in that partnership there, and they seem pretty confident in it too. Mm-hmm. As for the financials, speaking of which, here we got a few. Insomniac, like I mentioned earlier, is considering splitting Spider-Man 3 into two parts at $50 a pop instead of a single $70 release. We also got stats on PlayStation's PC sale performance, and I thought this was really interesting because you'll see once I go over the numbers what's happening here. Horizon Zero Dawn, which was the first ever PlayStation PC port, sold 3.3 million units on PC. God of War went with 2.5 million. Days Gone, 1.7 million. Shout out to them. Like, man, like I'm not the biggest Days Gone fan, but this was awesome to see how celebrated it was. A lot of people have come around to love that game. Spider-Man Remastered, 1.3 million. So Days Gone beating out, at least at the time of this chart, beating out Spider-Man Remastered. Pretty crazy. But that's what happens when you change the face of your main character. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, 483.2 thousand units sold. Miles Morales, 450,000.2 units sold. And Sackboy: A Big Adventure sitting down at a whopping 62.9 thousand copies sold. I thought this was interesting because it feels like they peaked with the first ever PC release, and they are kind of chasing the promised land since then. And this goes against, again, what a lot of the broad assumption with PlayStation was like, man, they got it all figured out. Like, you sell it on PlayStation, right? Give it a few years, and here's the PC release. And they're just going to make bread off it. But you look at things like, I mean, Uncharted's been sold 1 million times, so I read less in those numbers. But Miles Morales,
bro,
pretty soft. And that's a great game. That's a great game. I think Days Gone doing better in Spider-Man Remastered. There was actually a note on the slide about that specifically, that I think Spider-Man Remastered, like, it did good numbers in a short stretch of time, but still, like, the fact that Days Gone at a certain point was outselling it, that's not, you can't imagine in any world that was an expectation. With the only thing I think of is that Spider-Man on PS4 sold over 20 million units, so they may have thought, like, okay, this is something that a lot of people have bought, and it may have been even put out on PlayStation 5 by that point too. So this has been bought by so many people that maybe they were expecting lower retention. I don't know. God of War did really well though, which is good to see. So I just found that these numbers gradually trickle off here, and that maybe this is indicating why they want to do that 3.0 shift with PlayStation Plus, where they provide less of a gap maybe to strengthen the PC sales. I don't know if it's going to be day and date, but maybe you don't wait a couple of years. What do you think of these numbers, though?
I mean, the Miles Morales thing is really shocking to me. I think to me, the first couple, like Horizon, God of War, Days Gone, to me, that's the novelty of it. Finally, these games are coming to PC. PC community gets behind it. But to have Miles Morales that soft, to me, indicates that the strategy of withholding for a year plus may not be sound. And maybe
That, or sorry, real
no,
quick, I
please,
just want to
please.
throw out there for you. That or Horizon Zero Dawn. I remember the PC port when it launched was not in a great state. It's in a great state now.
Right.
When it launched, it was in a pretty poor state. So you got to wonder if that played a trickle down effect on the rest of the PC release state. I don't know.
It's interesting because if I recall, Miles Morales, I'm gonna say that was Nixus, and Nixus, their ports are sound, bro.
Yeah,
like whenever Nixus, does a PlayStation one. I remember playing it on in Spider-Man and playing it on what you call it. I was like, man, this is really impressive on like the Steam Deck or ROG Ally, whatever I was playing it on. I think they have to reevaluate the strategy of, and this is where the question of day and date is going to come back up. Are you leaving money on the table, right? Because see, they're in this weird thing where they've built this brand as far as like the exclusive and not upsetting a hardcore base and saying, hey, we're going to have it on PC at the same time. You know, we value the console kind of thing. But if you're not getting the returns, you should get way more than that. This is Miles Morales. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my opinion. So I think you have to reevaluate. Maybe it starts with a smaller, maybe they don't go extreme with day and date. Maybe they go 6 months or something like that. Or maybe they do eventually go day and date with that, 3.0 kind of thing. But they definitely, in my opinion, they cannot be happy with that.
Yeah. So that's really everything we wanted to talk about from the Insomniac hack. Certainly there's going to be much more. I imagine the Sacred Boys will be all over it. So please tune in to Sacred Symbols for what they're working on. So I'll timestamp that. And let's move on to more really in the world of Xbox. We have quite a lot to go through today. Very jam-packed episode. A lot happened for Xbox. We got some Blade updates. There was some concept art put online pretty shortly after the announcement at the Game Awards. When we went on break, it was put out there. And it was also confirmed, this is to be expected, but I think it's worth pointing out that Blade will be developed on the Void engine. At least this is according to a LinkedIn profile. So for those who don't know, Void engine is what powered Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Deathloop. So I think you can expect a similar style game, as I think most of us were already anticipating, from Arcane Leon in Blade, at least in the level of like interactivity. And that also could spell a little bit of worry and concern for the PC port, just because I know that Void Engine, at least initially with the likes of Dishonored 2, had some real trouble on PC. And I think that's a big reason why that game never got its flowers at launch, because more people were talking about how bad the PC port was rather than like just how incredible that game was. But yeah, just a few updates on Blade there. Cog, have you taken a look at any of this and have anything to say on it?
Yeah, the concept art looks cool.
Yeah,
it really does. I love the vibe. I love the energy. It's just, I just love everything they're going for. There's that one where I believe he's kind of like the one he's over the city, kind of looking over the top, which is kind of cool. And there's this one that it feels like, I don't know if there's like a subway station or something, and they're looking through, like there's vampires and stuff inside, and then he's outside fighting or something like that. But everything looks really dope. So I'm super hyped. I'm glad you explained Void because I did not know that. So but from what I see so far, Ding and the team, they got the vibe down to me.
Yeah, just the fact that he's on a rooftop. To me, when I think, it's so stupid. When I think Arcane, I think rooftops, because I think of like Corvo with the sword, with the blade, kind of like looking down at the street. And so looks like we might be getting a little bit of that. So I'm very excited for that. All right, let's move on to Bethesda Game Studios. We're going to be talking about them a lot this episode. Not Starfield right now. We're going to talk about Fallout 76 because they released a year-end blog post for Fallout 76, which teased upcoming content for the new year, alongside new information on the game's continued success. Fallout 76 has now eclipsed 17 million players since its November 2018 release. In spring of this year, the America's Playground update will introduce a new open world section for the first time in the game's lifespan. Usually they are just adding quests and like maybe dungeons, but this is the first time like you're going beyond Appalachia and that you can just free roam and explore and quest there. They've normally done expeditions, which are like raids, if I were to draw a random comparison. Perhaps more important for the game's growth is that they are finally expanding the main map of Appalachia. Bethesda has stated that they will be expanding the game's map south into the wooded heartlands of Shenandoah. And so, yeah, Cog, this is a pretty big deal. Like they had a really quiet 2023, which was spelling some disaster in my opinion for them. Because I'm like, look, like you guys, it's admirable how much you supported this game, but you cannot have a year that's like a whimper quite like this if you're 76. But now in 2024, they seem posed to have one of their strongest years in answering what has been demands for this game for years. And it's funny because as the game ages, it's looking technologically like worse and worse, where you'd think eventually they'd abandon it, but somehow they've found a way to expand the map. They have found a way to add more maps in the game. I'm surprised, dude. And I'll say this, I played one of the last videos I posted before I went on my little break was trying out the Atlantic City Part 1 update, and like the vibe is there, Cog. The vibe is there. And like Atlantic City as a Fallout setting, like artistically 76 has always been really good, but I mean, they still get it. It's almost there. You can feel they're knocking on the door. It'll never be your traditional Fallout experience, but if it can just be Fallout with your friends online, which is looking like where they're heading more and more with more PvE style content, I am very excited to see what they do with an expanded map with the America's Playground update. So I'll be there. I'll check it out.
Will you though?
I will. I check out all of their major updates. So thank you very much.
It's just funny to me because it's like, I just got to be honest. Like me, I'm like, oh yeah, it's doing great. Oh, good, yeah. Great. Because I know what I want selfishly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So to me, this reminds me of as a guy who loves Titanfall, right?
Yeah.
And I sit there and I'm like, I'm never gonna get Titanfall 3 because of that damn Apex Legends is so damn successful and I can't stand it. And I have nothing to do with Apex Legends, but the truth is popping, right? So it's like, I was like, oh, Fallout 76 is popping. Damn. Great. So that means the longer the wait for the next Fallout kind of thing. I'll be honest. I'm below.
I hear you. Dude,
you know what I'm saying? Grit my teeth like, good for you guys. Awesome.
Yeah. You know, this news article will be more relevant when we get into the news about Starfield. But
yes,
Bethesda's many things, but I give them credit for sticking with it.
They stuck with
something out of literally nothing. So
literally, and they've risen from the ashes. So salute to them. All jokes aside, salute to them and the team, and just hope that could translate to Fallout one day.
Yes, of course.
Mainline Fallout.
All right. Well, let's take a look at SEGA. They released new art and details for the 5 reboots they announced during the Game Awards 2023. For starters, there's Streets of Rage Revolution, so we have a title for the game now, where its art includes the caption, "Take control of one of the ex-officers and make the city a place where people no longer have to walk the streets of rage." For Jet Set Radio, it's defined as a Tokyo street open world where you, quote, experience the rebellion movement that feels free in a suffocating society. Make friends, increase your fans, and create a movement. Crazy Taxi's caption says, "Cheerful feeling of freedom crosses with fusion of nature and city. Peel out the new stage of Crazy City." And Shinobi gets a more in-depth description as the caption reads, "Run through the world of Shinobi full of monsters and ninja actions. Grab Oborozuki, the legendary sword, and slay evil once more. Your clan and the world are counting on you," end quote. So really the main standout here is, to me, the name of Streets of Rage Revolution. Hanging on to any little detail you can get on that. And then, of course, Jet Set Radio being open world and about making a movement, increasing your fans. It's interesting because, like, as someone who loves Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, that was in my top 10 when I did my list this year, and or last year, I should say now. And that is a game that it feels like Jet Set Radio too. Like it really does. And a lot of that game is about like building a reputation, so to say. Like you'll do graffiti to get the attention of gangs, and then you'll face off against those gangs in these new sectors of the world. So to see that Jet Set Radio is going to go full on open world would separate the two. But I will just say this, that if you are a Jet Set fan, like play Bomb Rush. It's not a long game, and Bomb Rush is like the type of good that will put SEGA on watch. Like they should be careful. Like you have to look, like just as clearly Bomb Rush studied Jet Set and made something far better in it.
No, you
now SEGA must take, humble yourself. Take a good, honest look at Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. That game rules. But yeah, new details. Cog, any thoughts on this, from Shinobi to Jet Set to Streets of Rage and
Golden, everything, man. Like I said, I like that we're getting more information and more of the verbiage of where they're going with the concepts and stuff like that. Shinobi, for me, obviously I'm a hardcore Shinobi guy. So the first thing I noticed, it doesn't seem that it's going to be Joe Masashi, who is one of the main, protagonists, but they're going with this like demonic sword vibe. So I'm like, all right, cool. And maybe I'm assuming this guy's a descendant or part of the clan or something like that, whoever this, the ninja is. So that's the first thing. Streets of Rage, I'm kind of in line with you because what you said about Jet Set and Bomb Rush, because we have to be honest. Shout out to Dotemo, Lizard Cube, and those guys. They set the standard as fans of the series. SEGA gave them the official, this is part 4, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot to live up to that. You know what I'm saying? And either you need to get them involved or you need to, again, take very serious notes. They did a fantastic job. So, yeah, I got my eyes on Revolution. The one I'm actually curious about is Golden Axe because I want to see how that translates.
That's the one I'm most skeptical about.
Yeah, I want to see in this day and age, how does that translate, right?
Yeah.
And I just got to see. I'm not going to say they can't do it. I just want to know what's going to be the spin on it. What will they modernize? For whatever reason, Crazy Taxi, I'm the least worried. I think they'll be going to do fine.
Yeah,
I just like the vibe.
That up. It's about frame rate. I think at that point, like you're moving all around the city super quick. Just as long as we're not dipping, should be fine.
Exactly. And shout out to them. That was the only time. What is it? What's that group? Everybody's like, if they don't have Offspring in the joint, it's gonna be a problem. Like they had some, and the title screen was like, yeah, whatever that song was. People like, if that ain't there, it's gonna be a problem. Saying so, I don't know if they can do the licensing. I don't know if they can do that. But that people are upset if that's not going to be there.
Let's hope. Next up on the list here, we have Xbox and Nihon Falcom. This is, of course, a little bit of a Maddie news bite here that I had to include. Xbox is not included in Trails and East developer Nihon Falcom's future growth strategy, but documents suggest they are interested in heavily investing in the PC market, which is interesting because that's where they kind of got their first boom. So I'll be talking about Trails a lot in a little bit. But this sucks to see because I think this series Trails is growing a lot. East is pretty popular too. And I just feel like for Falcom to take that next major step, they need Game Pass. Like it's because it's such a high investment franchise, Trails. But East, you could start with 8. You could start with 9. Like you could, like they're all just chapters in this dude's life, pretty much, and from all different points, kind of like Metal Gear almost. Like they just hop around his timeline. And I feel like if that's an easy one to get into, but I feel like if they can somehow manifest the budget to get some Xbox ports over there and get on Game Pass, they would be introduced to a whole new market, kind of like SEGA was, which could put their series on the map. Because I'll talk in a little bit about how their continuous investment is paying dividends for long-term fans, and more people need to take note of it because no developers doing what they're doing, and I think it's really impressive. And I want Xbox fans to see the crazy shit I'm talking about like every single month on this show. So yeah, they're currently not listed as part of their future growth strategy, but with PC, I hope maybe Xbox can figure something out with PC Game Pass at the minimum, but we'll see in due time. Any thoughts on this, Cog?
Not much. This is all you.
Yeah, this
I
is,
just want to see your
one.
people. I'm just surprised your people. They didn't have them on a strategy at all. So I thought that was interesting. Like there was no. Was this like where did you see this information? Is where I was curious. About.
It was a internal like they were doing like quarterly earnings and whatnot, and just
earnings report,
future growth expectations, and so like like for example, they were just PlayStation for a while. Like a lot of their growth happened on PSP as well. They were known as like one of the dominant PSP developers during that stretch. And of course, PC, they pretty much developed for places that it was cheapest to make games for. They've made their way to PlayStation on a console level, so like Vita and PS3 and PS4 and PS5. So they've just been in that ecosystem for a while and only recently started embracing Switch. Like for example, Cold Steel, for some of their newer games, Cold Steel 1 and 2 aren't on Switch, but Cold Steel 3 and 4 are on Switch. So like I mean, again, they're kind of like an indie sized team, which is something that I think based on the quality of their games, people don't realize, but they're a small team compared to most on this planet. And so I get why they currently can't develop for Xbox, but I feel like even some delayed ports for exposure with Game Pass would do them so many favors, especially with how, like, I think the series has sold a total of like 7 million units and 2 million of those have come in the last couple of years. Like they're growing. So I hope that they find a way to connect with Xbox, or that Xbox connects with them and fund something that would also be ideal. Because these games are, I think, too good to be missed, and I think they can do for Trails and East what they did for Yakuza easily.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can build that relationship, let's get that going. Let's get them over here. Absolutely.
Let's hope. All right, next up, we've got Starfield. Real briefly, Starfield, it was revealed, was the #1 most discussed game in 2023 with over 53,000 articles made about it. So, that was, I thought, just a really interesting stat. Like, not even trying to be spiteful or make a quick little joke about it. I just thought it was really interesting that despite it all, Starfield was talked about a lot. Now, does that mean that all of these articles were positive and cheery and had something good to say and whatnot? No, clearly not. But I thought it was still an interesting metric to bring to light nonetheless. Cog, any thoughts on?
Shout out to the SEO. Shout out to the SEO, man. SEO's out here moving, baby. That what you can say about that game? People want to talk about it. Want to talk about it. I don't know. Do we have any notes about the Steam? Do we have any notes about the Steam?
Because I mean, mostly negative. If you want to take this moment, go ahead. I removed it from the show notes because I was like, you know what? Let's not start off 2024 with a headache. But that was my choice for me. You go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying because, you know, the reason why I feel it was vital is, again, it comes to show that even though a lot of people play stock in reviews and user reviews and all this stuff, and, you know, Steam was a topic of conversation, right? Steam was like, you know, look, what's going on in these user reviews? It's not liked. And then if we looked at the the Steam, they had the Platinum, and this is revenue, right? This is revenue on Steam. So to me, when I see that, it throws in the face of that notion of when people don't like something, or a certain subset of people don't like something, that doesn't necessarily translate into what the world feels about something and purchasing something. And that's what we have to be very clear about. So that's why, you know, they was going to get a hum for that, because again, if you take your feelings out of it, this is a certain subset. This doesn't go to everybody, because not everybody feels this way. But there's a certain subset of people who were trying to maximize the reviews of, or something not being critically reviewed as something being a flop or a failure, right? And now we have on that level that it is. It's a tremendous success. So that's all I wanted. Again, I'm a little petty with this one.
I'll share my bars when we get to the big Starfield update and what they're playing for 2024. But again, there's no doubt that like there was an immediate fatigue, because the reason I removed it was like, I don't know what else we're going to say about it other than like, we know where the game's trending reception wise.
I know what I was going to say.
I apologize. I shouldn't have made that decision. Next time,
it was me. I was waiting. I've been on break. I've been waiting to hum.
It's just the thing. It's funny because like when I was coming back, you know, like I said, I was off Twitter. I was the only time I tweeted, I think, was when when Summon Sign was a thing, and so like I come back and I don't expect the world to change in 2 weeks, but I come back and I'm like, wow. It might have gotten worse. I was like, the conversation may have got even more bad about Starfield while I was gone, where I've just been so not exposed to anything modern gaming for a while that it's like my hair blew back. I was like, holy shit, man. So I was like, all right, This is not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, it's not. We can't avoid it because at the end of the day, again, when you looked at that platinum list, right, Maddie, the majority of these games, free to play, multiplayer, transactions, all these things that create engagement. This is an old school single player Western RPG. Yeah, it got its flaws. You may not like it. That's cool. But we're not going to deny financial success. We're not going to deny the fact that this thing was platinum on Steam revenue. That is impressive. And I just want to get back into the honesty of reviewing how something is performing. That's all it is. You want to go about critical reviews and some people didn't like it and it got a bad thing. And I'm not even going to talk about, I don't know if, now this part I think is funny. Did you see they run most innovative Steam Award? I don't agree with that.
That was nuts, bro.
No, I don't agree with that.
Like, I love Starfield, in my own way, but I love it because it's a comforting, like, I know what Bethesda's bringing to the table. This works for me. It's not going to work for everybody, but innovative,
right?
I mean, like, look, the shipbuilding's fucking raw, but like, I wouldn't call it innovative.
It ain't innovative like that. No. So what does that tell you about reviews then? See. So what does that? It can be manipulated because me and you both know. It ain't the most innovative. Like, come on. So what it shows me is the Steam community sometimes control. It can have, when it comes to reviews or it comes to it can be manipulated. But you know what can't be manipulated? The numbers. And how much is sold. That can't be manipulated. One more time. All right, I'm done. I had to get that. I mean, I was holding that. I was holding that for a lot of weeks.
Comment on YouTube and Patreon right now.
Sorry.
I wonder what game it's about.
I'm sorry. I was trying to be nice for
certainly I have dragged us into trouble before.
I know. I'm sorry. It's my fault this time. I'll take full responsibility. I'm gonna be better. I said it, the New Year resolution. I'm gonna be better.
If I can say what I did about Spider-Man 2, you can certainly say that. You're totally fine. No one cares.
Right. We can move on.
All right. Let's move on then. This one was an interesting little fun fact that I wanted to cover. Chris Avellone, formerly of Obsidian Entertainment, confirmed that Obsidian had proposed an Elder Scrolls style spin-off game. The goal was to accomplish the same thing that New Vegas had, which is giving more content before the next mainline release. In Chris's Twitter thread, he confirmed the information and said his idea was to propose that they try and push a similar system to what Treyarch and Activision had going on with Call of Duty, with less of Rush, of course. Unfortunately, Chris confirms that the idea never gained much traction, and this one stung for a lot of people. It made the rounds far more like Chris always is really good at sharing like little inside baseball on like pitches and stuff. Like I've interviewed him before. He's awesome. Really open with the process. Yeah, a while ago, really long time ago. But like I think I was still in college. But yeah, he is a treasure trove for information, and it was cool to see him share this because Obsidian and Bethesda were like this. At one point, for those who are audio listeners, I'm tying my fingers together. They were really close, and it seemed like they were developing that kind of partnership. But I sincerely believe that the reception to New Vegas really put Bethesda off. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that. I mean, they're pretty open about it. Like Todd Howard, whenever he's asked almost every interview when they get a chance, like, what's going on with New Vegas? Are you guys ever going to do something like that again? You've got to manage Starfield, Elder Scrolls, Fallout. What gives? And Todd has always said, like, we're really protective of that stuff. So I don't think it's a far-fetched theory to say that Todd and co probably took note of that and said, you know what, like, we don't want to get outshined. And I mean that as someone who likes Bethesda Game Studios and the stuff they put out. I think Obsidian's viewed more as a threat, and that's why there was that optimism of a future with Fallout when Xbox bought them, because I love the Bethesda style Fallout, but I also love the Obsidian style Fallout. And as a consumer, I would like both. And now when you got the middleman in Xbox who can pull the ego right out of the situation with their own hands and be like, that's ours, thank you. All right, Obsidian, flick it their way. Here you go. Enjoy the Fallout IP. It's yours to play with because we own it, not Bethesda. That's why it's exciting. And so to know that they could have done the same for Elder Scrolls, I'm going to try to be fair here because I am obviously a Fallout fan above Elder Scrolls, but I feel like Elder Scrolls fans deserve this, man. If you are, no one ever thinks of them this way because most fans for Bethesda Game Studios just bleed together into all their IP. But if you are a fan of just Elder Scrolls, oh, your life sucks, dude. Oh my God. Think about it. You get Skyrim in 2011. You are at the top of the mountain. Like, wow, Look how far we've come. This game's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, like within the next decade. Nope. Not even close. Maybe in the next 20 years of your life, right?
Right.
Maybe. You get Elder Scrolls Online, which is awesome, but that's all you get. And I feel bad for them. And so to know that this could have been something, I think Bethesda, I will say, I think they fumbled the bag with how they handled Elder Scrolls after Skyrim. I think they milked Skyrim for all it was worth. And that is one part of the business strategy. Sure, if that's one angle among many others, sure. But you did nothing else. You did Elder Scrolls Blades. You did Elder Scrolls Online. You did nothing in the terms of what people loved about Skyrim so much that they kept buying the fucking game again. So I saw this. I was like, wow, that is so frustrating to know that this idea could have been a thing. Like a more, like we've never seen Elder Scrolls not be this more open world type of thing. And I know like Obsidian loves to slim the focus, which it sounds like, according to Chris, that was the idea, was something a little more narrow in scope. And I would have loved to see that. Oh, I forgot to throw in the plethora of Elder Scrolls projects. They did Legends, the card game.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What are we doing, man? Like, who is the franchise manager? Because they're not doing a good job with Elder Scrolls. Like, their whole job is just banking on ES6 being a huge success at this point. But nonetheless, Cog, any thoughts on a Elder Scrolls style spinoff?
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts because obviously, I'm a team and a fan of the Black Rock and the few that spend on stuff. And, obviously, New Vegas is beloved. So I think with them, they had to have like a bad taste about the finances. Because even you told me during the time, see, I don't remember when it came out how much of a success it was. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, that it didn't do well at first.
New Vegas was... It's really interesting because there's been a lot of, like, I think, revisionist history on that game. Many people pretend, but when that game came out, it was not celebrated. It was like, oh, this is Fallout 3 2.0.
Yeah.
And when you tie that in with the Metacritic bonus that was tied to
New
Vegas, which Obsidian claims was not a big deal. They don't care about it at all, but we don't really know what the interaction then was.
That's what I'm thinking.
If you are looking at a long-term partnership and your partner misses by 1 point, and you're like, sorry, guys.
They probably gave him the Black Rock the side eye, like, we gave you a chance to punch that thing in the goal line and you fumbled the bat.
And we're putting out these 90 plus Metacritic games. You couldn't even hit this. So
and this was peak Bethesda at that time. So to be able to
they were working on Skyrim at the time. So they're probably like, what the fuck is this, guys? Like, what the fuck is this?
That's what I'm saying. So you got peak Bethesda, Obsidian trying to take their shot. They probably felt a little way. And then the numbers come, and then also the financial aspect of, we got to, as much as it pains me to say this, them remixing Skyrim a zillion times goes to show you that he even said, he's like, we will stop making it until y'all stop buying it. We won't, you know what I mean? Like,
best out statement from Todd.
Yeah. So I think that's what kind of deaded them off. And then I just feel this ultimate protectiveness of all their stuff. Like, I don't get the vibe Todd want to share the toys no more. Like I don't get the vibe no more, man.
No, definitely not.
But I feel for Elder Scrolls guys, because it's like, even though I'm a Starfield guy, like, I feel for them also, because it's like, damn, they got to wait, but in between the Starfield situation, between that, you know what I mean? Like, they've got to wait. Like, so I personally would have loved this from Obsidian, to be able to make, a spinoff, a refined Elder Scrolls type spinoff would have been dope in Tamriel or what have you. But it's Bethesda, man. They not trying to. They still look at them as big bro and you little bro, and we not trying to. That's how I feel the situation is.
100%. So that's a little fun fact for you. And lastly, before we get into what we're playing, Square Enix was speaking recently and said that, quote, they want to bring their rich back catalog, to more players. You consider the recent Xbox partnership there. We know Octopath Traveler 2 is on the way. Final Fantasy 14 is on the way. And that perhaps more alongside it, maybe Live Alive, maybe Pixel remasters. I'm very interested to know what the deal with like Final Fantasy 16 or the first 7 remake is. All that would be very interesting to see. But
Mm-hmm.
just a heads up that they're looking to bring more and more to their new players. So excited to see what that ends up being. Any thoughts on this, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to know what that means for the Xbox fan base. Obviously, like you said, we saw the relationship seems to be improving. So, yeah, how quickly do you bring those back catalog of games that people are been patiently waiting for?
Yes.
So, yeah, the question is just going to be when. I know it's happening. It's just
100%.
how do they decide to roll this thing out? And the exclusivity deal specifically with Remake. Now, I think Rebirth comes out this year, right?
Rebirth is, in a little bit over a month.
Over
Very
a month,
excited for
right?
that. Yeah,
Something
oh my
like
God.
that.
Game looks amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then, because I'm not waiting. I'm
Oh,
getting
no.
I am not waiting.
Sorry, Green Team.
Yeah, sorry. I'll be over there. See y'all when I see y'all. When they come, I'll play it again, though, when they come over. But what I was going to say. But yeah, that's it. I just want to see when they plan to get the roadmap actually involved.
All right, Todd, let's talk about what games we're playing, shall we?
Yeah.
We have here a lot because we've been gaming these last 2 weeks. So, sir, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so finally decided to, you know what, it's time to really dig down with this whole game of the year situation. So I'm like, all right, Baldur's Gate, come on, you know what I'm saying? So I said, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to actually, I grabbed the homies up, and I didn't realize you could really 4-player this thing.
Yeah, you kind of miss out, though, when you do that, but...
That's what I was about to comment on.
Yeah.
And I'm about to, if my homies are listening, I'm not about to do this with y'all no more. Because, like, dudes are funny. Like, they'll break off and then, like, all right, cool thing. I like that if they break off and they in the middle of some real conversation, you can go over them, press left trigger, and then jump into the cinema.
About that. Oh. I thought you were talking about because you don't get the companions with you. You don't get the unique interactions. Like, they're just engaging with content.
Bro, they set one of my guys, we doing something. I just did this whole snuck a goblin out of a community, and I'm trying to like do like this war, like I'm trying to bring peace between two warring factions. Mm-hmm. And then this one dude starts to set it, and then the whole goblin community is after us. I'm like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? So you got that. Then I got one of my guys that the only good thing is he has like ability to speak to animals. Like he's really,
yeah.
And I go for this feature saved us because there was this wild, like big, crazy owl looking thing. This thing was really evil. So basically, we get there and it's like a big owl thing, and it's got this little owl. So it's like a mother protecting, the child. So I'm like, yo, you go over there, you talk to it. So he talked it down a little bit, but the owl kind of, the narrator says, if you step one more closer, it's on. So I'm gonna give you this polite growl that this is as far as this gonna go. So we like, yo, I think we could take it, right? We go, so we rough this thing up, right? So then I'm like, yo, we should probably not kill the baby thing to see what happens. So we beat the owl thing. The baby owl is there. So we like, we say the baby owl, so it's this very emotional scene. It goes up, it's really sad that the mother died. And then immediately, Maddie, the baby owl starts gorging and eating its mom. I'm like, yo, what that?
I don't think I've seen this side quest.
Bro, it is the most National Geographic, really twisted type situation I've ever seen. I was like, yo, what is going on here? So I got that. My little monk, Dwarger, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Druger, whatever. Okay. Basically, my monk got shadow abilities as well. So he's got the thing where I can topple people to knock them down. I use the jump to get around, but what I new joint now, I got this thing called deflect missile. So my only weakness is I got to use my guys because I don't have long range. Everything with me is up close with my Shaolin staff kind of thing. So what I can do now is when they shoot at me from long range, I can use deflect missile. Oh, it's fire. So I'm really getting into my build with that. And then I got some other shadow powers. I got a lot that would allow also, I can give us like group sneak concealment, which is dope. So I'm getting into it. Like the powers are dope. But I have to admit, Maddie, like, even though you can play this multiplayer, it's really messy playing unless you're all on the same page and you're all like committed to the story and wanting to pay attention. But I think I agree. I'm losing out on the horniness. I'm losing out on the camp. Because I heard when they go back to the camp, boy, woo-wee.
Yeah.
It goes down. It goes down at the campfire. So I might do that. And then shout out to Attic, because when we did play, he's like, yo, why'd you make your man short and beefy? Like, he's short, he adorable, but his forearms is wild crazy. His arms is wild crazy. He looked like me. So he's like, yo, every time we in the cinema, he's like, I can't stop laughing at your character. Like, you gotta see, I put it on Twitter. You're gonna laugh.
Oh,
bro, it's wild funny. He said, Cog, your character is the funniest Baldur's Gate character I've ever seen. Because I try to make him look like me, but 12 status. Like, yeah, what's going on? Do we even lift, bro? So yeah, look at go down to my tweets.
I'll find it.
You'll find it. So that's been that for the Baldur's Gate, right? And then obviously now I started up Tactica, Persona 5 Tactica. I also started that up. So that's by myself joint. So Tactica, all right. I like it. They be talking, boy. Tactica be talking. They got a lot to say between everything, man. But I will say the systems are fire. Like the only thing I'm trying to master that I don't really have down yet is the triple threat move kind of thing. So where it's kind of like one of your people downs somebody with the gun, shoots them. Then the other two, you kind of like pincer attack. And then you can do this kind of super move kind of thing. So I need to get that down because what's happening as you go later in the game, these quests these challenges, I call them challenges, even though they say quests. So they'll be like, yo, you got to defeat all these enemies. These are like side quests in like 2 turns. And I'm like, how? Like some of these guys are all barriered up with no way to like get close to them or shoot them with the gun. And you got to use your persona abilities because the persona abilities will knock somebody out of cover or hit somebody even if they're in cover. So that right there. The story is hilarious. I don't know how much you played this. I
played 3-4 hours of it.
Yeah. How did you drop it? Because I felt like you dropped it. It was like, eh.
I had other JRPGs calling my name at the time.
I got you.
Especially, the other thing is, I don't know why Sega's handling these kind of Persona stuff. I think they may have just wanted to get this one out, whatever. But with knowing Persona 3 Reload is right around the corner, like I kind of know I'm going to get my big fixing with what I care about most. Like I play the spinoffs because I'm not going to get a 3 Reload for a while, right?
Gotcha.
Knowing I was a couple months away, I was like, that's like one of my biggest priorities this year. It's like, I cannot wait for that game. It's one of my most anticipated games. So that's why I kind of moved on from it without really much hesitation. I was like, if I have a Persona craving, like I got that because I've played every other Persona game. So no doubt I'll get to it eventually, but like, I think I've had my fill of the P5 spinoffs already. P4 spinoffs were like inventive enough. I feel like 5, I just haven't had that same buzz as I used to. So yeah,
I'll show you. I'm in the middle right now because the story is funny. It is hilarious to me what's going on with this Lady Marie and this whole, she got people messing around. She got your people turned against you and all this other stuff. And then you link up with this new character, Ariana, whatever her name is. And then you're starting this.
Voice actress. So good.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And then like you're starting this resistance kind of thing. And then, so there's a part of me that likes where they're going with it. But then there's also a part of me, I'm like, man, y'all be talking about everything. Like every segment of the game is like, we gotta have a conversation about this. We gotta talk about this. We gotta talk about that. And I'm like, all right,
they do it right because it's like it's fine if there's a lot of dialogue. In Persona 5 Royal, like you have so much dialogue in that game, but it's because it's like as things are moving along, where it's like you're in the base and you're just selecting topics, and then like let's talk about this for a while. Select topic. Let's talk about this for a while. It's like you guys could have done this in gameplay.
In game. That's and then there's so much, loading between. We're talking about loading. There's loading between all this. So I got to see how much I'm going to stick with it. But I will say the gameplay mechanics, the fusing of the personas, dope. I do like that.
Yeah.
The weapon, the skill trees. I am liking the skill trees. They're pretty dope. And it was one more other thing about it that I was going to say, but for the most part, it's solid, but I see, because Attic, I was like, yo, what's up? Why he's like, nah, I kind of dropped it. Because he feels like that even though it's not a mainline Persona, they ain't going all the way in with the production value part with the story. So that's what kind of disconnected him. But I'm going to stick with it for a little bit longer, see how much it goes. But started Tactica, so I'm about 5-6 hours in. Okay. And then the last thing was obviously my Destiny. You know what I'm saying? It's Season of the Wish, which is the longest Destiny season before our final shape. And but shout out to them. one of my favorite New Year's is probably like my favorite holiday, and the season that they do this, that's the event that they do is called the Dawning,
Hmm.
and it's cheesy, but I kind of like it. It's like you give gifts to all the people, all the famous NPCs in the game, and they give you a gift bag. It's like this New Year's celebration foolishness, which I like. And then a shout out to they had a dungeon out, which is really good. This Warlord joint and Warlord's Ruin, which was really good. And what was the other one? It was one other. Season of the Coil. I mean the Coil. What you call seasonal event, and I really like that. It's kind of like, let's say roguelike, but it's kind of like a war of attrition. As you go deeper and deeper, the enemies gets harder and harder, but the rewards get better. So it's a very cool event. I have to give them credit for that as far as the way they executed that. So we'll see. The only thing that's going to suck is now the story seems to be wrapping up, and now we have a long wait because this is an extended season. So That's pretty much it. So those have been the three major things I've been playing. I've been playing a little, but I don't want to. There's one other thing I have been playing. I don't want to talk about it until I beat it because I don't want to talk because I don't want to. I don't think it's fair to you because I was coming for you today. I was coming for you today. I had a shot for you, but I said it's not fair until I beat it, and then when I beat it, then I'm gonna come back and talk to it.
What the hell?
You ain't gonna have no idea what it is. Trust me, you ain't got no idea what it is. I'm not gonna do it until hopefully by next Duke, I'll have it done, and then I'll have comments, and then I'll say, you know what? Nah, Maddie was right. Oh, you know what? Nah, Maddie was wrong.
I'm so curious. I wonder what it could be. Is it something I've been gassing? Don't tell me, but was it something I was like gassing up recently?
Something that you really went in on. You went in on this. You was like, this right here is terrible. Like, yeah, you went in on this thing. Yeah.
All right. That happens a lot.
Hold that thought. We'll talk about it. But you could still end up being right at the end. You still could be in there because I got to be.
All right, we'll see. I'm very, I don't know. Last year to me was so like, as a reviewer, like it was so, I know it was a historically good year, but I played so many bad games last year. So.
Yeah. This one was a polarizing game for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to learning more.
No doubt. What you been up to? What you been playing?
So one game I had targeted for my break was Trails has kind of become my holiday series. Naturally, I went into, people know the holiday break, pretty indecisive. I was thinking Yakuza. I had this plan for Final Fantasy 7 and 7 Remake again, and I was like, I'll do that in January. But then I was looking at Nayuta Boundless Trails. I bought this game around when Starfield came out. Like I buy all the collector's editions from Falcom because they're super cheap and high quality. And so this is like a pretty much the Ys combat system, like action RPG elements, gradual progression, adding new elements in the Trails world. And I don't know what the direct connection to the Trails series is, but after I beat it in 20 hours, I did like all the side content too. I played a lot of it on my PlayStation Portal and my Logitech G Cloud, which it was like perfect for that because it was originally a PSP game that they brought forward. It feels almost like an origin story to the world of Trails. That's my interpretation right now. But what's interesting is you know so much about the current world of Trails, but you don't know a metric ton about its history and how it came to be and whatnot. So they're gradually peeling that back. But I played this one to completion, and the first like 10, 15 hours, I was like, this is one of Falcom's best games. I was very impressed with the pacing. Like Falcom's known for, you think Persona 5 Tactica's got long stretches of dialogue. Oh my God. Falcom knows how to make a scene last. And a lot of times they do it really well, but there are stretches that I think they're redundant and they're not good. And Nayuta was surprisingly brief. Like you'd stop, talk for a few minutes and like just keep going. Like it was a PSP game through and through. And by that, I mean, it had a beautiful gameplay loop. Like you had this village, and as you completed missions, you could change the weather in certain areas and it would change how the level was laid out, what secrets were there, what hidden missions were there. So there's like a completionist factor. You'd pick up items while you're out there. You'd bring them to like a museum. You turn them in. They give you items there. You get money. You could spend your money on new equipment. As you completed all these challenges, you could go to your trainer and learn new moves from him. So it just had this, like, there was always something to do. And I had like that, just one more thing element the whole way through, which is my favorite part about it. Like it was a really gameplay driven experience that it was just fun to play. That was really what it was. The story, very much evocative of Kingdom Hearts 1, I found, which was kind of surprising. I was really taken back by that. But like, Nayuta reminds me a lot of Sora, and I'm already forgetting the character's name right now, but his friend reminds me of Riku, and Eartha kind of reminds me of Kairi, and so on. And so it just really felt like this was like that was their main touchstone narratively, which I like. One of my favorite things about Falcom is they're very much an inspired dev. Even though I tease them about it in my friend group a lot, I think they're pretty inspired. And so yeah, I finished this one up. Like I said, it took me about like 22, 23 hours, something along those lines. And that was the first game I beat while I was away. I made a mistake, if you will, and then I finished Baldur's Gate 3, did my review on it, and then dove back in again. And this game is incredible. I adore it. I don't know what more I can really say on it at this point, but yeah, I was really hooked to that for a while. I probably put a good like more 30, 40 hours into it during my break. That was a lot of fun though. The build crafting and the dialogue, and especially like I just got to throw out again because I never got to talk about Act 3 is incredible in Baldur's Gate 3. Like it is
Talk to me.
insane how much you do in the first part of the game that arrives here. It is like people who show up and help you or betray you. It's like, oh shit, I should have done that, or thank God I did that, or wow, good thing I went into that corner of the world. Just
the
it's
payoffs.
Impressive how much content is here, and like, dude, I miss so much. Like when I finished the game, my hour clock was like 80, and I looked for side content. I talked to tons of people, but no doubt I missed a ton. And going back in, I was like, yeah, I missed a ton. Like this has been great. So yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is phenomenal. I will be probably just gradually having a little side playthrough going throughout this whole year, and I'll just pick it up whenever and put it down whenever. Halo Infinite, the Finding Duke channel keeps hitting me up to play, and I was like, all right, let me hop back in. Let me see if the old thumbsticks are working all right here. If I'm like washed. I played some dubs with a friend, and this is the first time in years that I really gave Halo Infinite like many hours of my time, right? Okay. Like since its release, probably like I have not otherwise played Halo Infinite super extensively. And so I got a real good intimate feel for what the product is now. And I'm really impressed. I've been covering it here and on my channel, Mr. Maddie, for a while, but like when you really feel the new rotation of maps through Forge and through 343 and the new weapons like the Bandit and the new equipment, it's insane how much is there, and the modes, it's a ton of fun. Like 3 hours, just blink, gone, just like that. It is a really good time. The gameplay always felt great, so that was not a surprise. But yeah, the amount of content's here. Like if you have not been playing Halo Infinite, especially now, like I've been going between this and the finals. My only complaint with the finals is that they're not doing what Halo Infinite is doing with their extremely generous battle pass system. Halo Infinite, one of the things they did live up to is not really preying on FOMO. And you can go back to old seasons. Like I'm just doing Winter Contingency 3 right now because I like the little holiday theme stuff they have. But I could go back to Season 1, Season 2. I could activate an XP booster. I love that. I love that it's a perfect kind of approach to monetization for me. So I hope more games take note of this because I don't think their storefront is perfect, although technically nothing's priced extremely high compared to like, your Diablo 4s or whatever. Yeah. But if that's the trade-off that we need to pay to have a battle pass system that's really fair like this, where I don't need to, it understands the time that we're in, is how I read it. Halo Infinite gets that there's a lot of commitments out there and that there's a lot of games out there. And it's ready for you to come back whenever. If you dip out and you're like, man, I've been out for 3-4 seasons. I'm so behind now, and I'll never get these battle passes. I have to grind some. Like Halo Infinite's just kind of this opening welcome. Like, go ahead, chip away at your old seasons or play the current one. Which it's been this way since day one. But just to get in there after missing so much and only playing it intermittently here and there to really get your hands on it and see what it's become. I'm excited for its future. It's really good. I think it is ready for the Taken King moment whenever that may strike. So
that's big.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
Played that a lot. Really good time. Last game. Save the best for last because I have been like, I got to get grotesque with this. I have been creaming my pants over this game. This is a fucking amazing video game here. So to round out my very holiday trails, I had this moment. I finished Nayuta, playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm like, okay, like I can play something new. I've tried to go really away from stuff I'd play for content, which is why I kind of veered away from Final Fantasy 7 and 7 Remake, because I was like, I have videos planned in mind for those. I'm going to end up recording gameplay. Like, I don't want to do that. What can I pick? And so we were talking about my own video game and just the writing style. And we ended up talking about the new Trails game, which goes in Japan by Kuro no Kiseki, or Trails Through Daybreak is what it goes by in English. And my buddy of mine was like, well, there's an English mod that's out there. You can like download the mod and it translates the whole game. And I already owned it on Steam. I bought it. And he's like, you can play Kuro or Trails Through Daybreak right now. And I was looking at it. I was like, it was like December 28th. I was like, okay. I got nothing else to play. And this sounds pretty good. So I'm curious and I'm in the mood for a Trails game. So let's give it a shot. And I was just coming off of Reverie in June, which for those who don't know was kind of like the ending of a huge saga in Trails, pretty much. Like a 10 games worth of storytelling had just really wrapped up pretty much. Okay. And it was phenomenal. And I kind of had my fill, and I knew Trails Through Daybreak was coming to the West in 2024. But in my head, I was like, well, I can start early. Let's see how it goes. Right. And I've been critical about a lot of things at Trails, no matter how much I love it. Like, I think they are very hesitant to kill characters. I think they're hesitant to get pretty dark-hearted at times. I think they lean too much into fan service in Cold Steel specifically. These types of things have detracted from, number one, making like Trails a wholesale recommendation, like go play the series. It's like these things will piss off various types of people, either separately or all together. But it's such a special series and how it's constructed, where we're in like a day and age of remakes and reboots, and like you have this series that's just going and interconnected. The other thing that holds it behind that it did pretty well with finally with Reverie is like technologically, it's a little janky. And again, it's an indie team at the end of the day, so you understand, but as they're kind of like you eventually combat wise get into a rhythm, you know what you're doing turn-based wise, like there's no real surprises. What's so exciting about this next Trails game that's coming out to the West, and you'll be hearing from me a lot about this game, I promise you, is that new engine, new gameplay style, new location, new protagonist, new everything. And so I go in, and dude, this game, I'm 10 hours in, is amazing so far. I am thoroughly impressed. So as a Trails vet, the fact that the gameplay is as switched up as it is now. So what it does is, I'll use an example people might be familiar with Metaphor ReFantazio. That is a game that you saw the player was running around in this open world area, and they were hacking and slashing enemies to weaken them and then getting into turn-based combat afterwards. You can do that in this game. As I said earlier when I was covering Metaphor, that mechanic was taken straight from Kuro. And to see it play out is beautiful. So you have these enemies in the overworld, and if they're weak, you can just hack and slash through them. It's an action game. But then when an enemy's got a lot of health, you can stun them and activate a turn-based battle. And it's this whole new wrinkle on the turn-based flow that is so much fun. Instead of you just standing in place, you can move around this radius and position your character, and moves are positionally focused. Like, it is it's what you know and love about Trails combat, but it's a complete overhaul where right now, like, it is on the path to be, like, gameplay wise, just one of the best turn-based games made, straight up. Like, it has taken all those tropes, all those wrinkles, overhauled and innovated upon them, and has made something that developers are copying as we speak, right? Okay. So like gameplay wise, combat wise, this game rules. Story wise, the production value is much better. One thing they needed from their new engine was better cutscenes. Like, they were just freeze frames sometimes, or just like slow.
These cutscenes are way better than the stuff I saw before.
Yeah. The production value is way higher here. You got fully animated cutscenes, which you got in some of the games, but I mean, they would like reuse combat animation. So if I were to make an equivalent to anything, it would be like watching a cutscene in KOTOR. Like, the same combat things you're seeing are happening in the cutscenes. it's like you have to suspend your disbelief for a moment there and just let it be. But this game has some fucking crazy cutscenes. Like, so you can just see the investment across the board, man. The story's been fantastic. It's been far more dark. They added a morality system. So there's law, gray, and chaos. And now you can, at the end of every quest, you make a choice. You're like, I'm going to fuck this thing up. Or I'm going to I want to stay in the middle on this. Or I'm going to do the right thing and like go law. And what happens is by a certain point in the game, like factions will choose to ally with you or not. So it's not like, I don't know if there's multiple endings, but it changes the outcome of certain things. So there's a level of minor choice and consequence here. We combine that with like a whole new setting, updated tech. It looks pretty. The characters are great. There's not this zealous over sexualization of the entire fucking cast. They have a restrained hand for once. It's everything I've wanted from this series and then some. It is fantastic. And no doubt, so for the third year in a row, Trails will probably crack my top 10 game of the year list because I'm already playing. I'm like, dude, look, I have loved Trails, but this is built different. And I'm not just saying this is fucking built different. So here's hoping it keeps up the momentum. I don't see it slowing down. It feels like I'm just hitting the part where it's picking up. I will keep everyone updated week to week because I'm sure none of you give a shit, but I'm going to make you care anyway. I am very excited about this game. It is a great start to the new year for me. Yeah, I am. You might be able to tell.
Yeah, no, that's what's up. I go front. Now, you made a very big statement. The fact that dudes is biting the style, like they taking the style and putting that like the fighting and moving around. You said metaphor was kind of
metaphor is like static turn based, which is nothing wrong with that. But the way you engage is the same thing from Kuro. Same thing, like slash your enemies in the overworld and then start the battle or kill them there. I think that's where turn-based is going to head because it's like you get the option to engage. I think there's a place for like your Octopath Traveler where like, or Pokemon, like the random encounters. I think they'll always have a place. It's a classic feel. It's a classic vibe. But this is definitely for those games that are kind of like, we want to make turn-based games that are appealing to everyone, but we don't want to make an action game, but we need some action elements. Like this is this is probably the best hybrid you could conceive next to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which had that mixture of like action and turn-based. This feels, I never thought that you'd see another evolution quite like it, but playing it and feeling it, you're like, oh, this is different. Like more games need to do this, which I usually said that about Trails and storytelling. Its gameplay was always fantastic, but I never really lauded its gameplay beyond like, it's a really strong turn-based series. Like you'll enjoy the combat. It's really thoughtful and build crafty. But this is like now mechanically, it's like, no, people got to take note. Like this is really good shit.
No, dope. Looks good. Cannot front.
Thank you. They worked very hard on it. All right, that's everything I'm playing. So with that, we have one write-in, and then we'll get into the rest of the news here. Mm-hmm. All right, so Alex Kilgore writes in, "Hey, Duke boys, recently on Twitter, a thread posted by a game dev had started a bit of a shitstorm. The dev tweeted, quote, reminder to new game devs that are in your first AAA job, journalists and outlets are following you because they hope that you'll leak something accidentally or get tips off you," end quote. Now, I, for one, found this take to have the arrogance of someone who believes that they are holier than thou, but they do have some support shown to them in the comments. Even our beloved Jez Corden responded with a few tweets with his thoughts about it. Just curious where you all stand, as both of you are content creators who work in the gaming space. I hope you guys have a wonderful time off. Y'all deserved it. I hope you have we won't report on this Insomniac game leak because it's wrong, even though we reported on the GTA 6 leak the day before kind of year. It's not just me this episode. All right, sick. So I found this take really interesting that it gained traction at all because, like, at least in my experience, and I saw Jez's thread, and it seems he has the same experience I did. Like, I've leaked stuff before, not like visually, but information-wise. I never ask for it. It's usually like a developer or someone within the company approaches you and is like, hey, here you go. Like, do with this what you will. And it's up to you to decide. And you can ask questions. I'd be curious, like, what the relationship with someone like a prolific leaker like Jason Schreier is, and like the devs that he works with, because that's like his brand. That's his bread and butter. That's how he puts food on the table. So I feel like he's got to sniff out leaks a little bit more as like a business model almost. But for most of us, we follow devs because we think you're interesting and we like the shit you've made and we think you're pretty cool. In my experience, I've never had a developer I've had to hit up and go like, hey, please leak this to me. obviously they know it's like, if you want to share, go for it. I'm an open
Right.
book, and they know that already. It's kind of like the unspoken rule.
Right.
They share what they want to share, and then from there it's our decision on what we do share. Like, for example, we knew about Blade going into the Game Awards. We knew that was a thing, but we saw like there was a collective protection of it, and I was like, okay, like I don't think our fan base wants this ruined for them, so let's just not. Like, we don't need the cloud. Like, let's just not. So I think it's a choice made, and that's where the ethics comes into play. But Cog, you've been privy to information in the past. You've shared some of that on the show. What are your thoughts on this take?
I think, look, I can always speak for myself. As far as like the relationship with game developers and stuff like that, I'm like what you said earlier. Like, honestly, a lot of it is because I follow you because you make something I love, or you're part of a team that makes something, that I love. So it's just like my main reason for following is that. I want to celebrate the people in the industry who, these unsung heroes that don't get a lot of credit, because a lot of times you just hear about the publisher and, maybe one or two devs and that's it. You don't hear about anything else. So that's my main thing. Now, during the course of, interacting with people and stuff like that, sometimes you gain relationships, right? So like you said, there's times I'm privy to information and I'm like, all right, it's up to me whether or not I'm going to disclose that or what have you. And a lot of times I'm like, you know what? It is not for me, to clout chase and try to, like, I'm some insider. I am not an insider. I've never claimed to be. That's not something I want to be a part of. But also, I will say this, though. There are times, and developers, some may not want to admit this, but some do, where there is misinformation going on about their studio or about a process, about something. And they're like, hey, just for the record, exactly. Yo, just for the record, that ain't it, Cog. And I'm like, oh, word, okay.
It's usually born out of passion. Like I've got stuff leaked to me because I said something so wrong that a developer's like, click, click, clack. Nope, you're wrong, dude.
Yeah, they'd be like, yo, Cog, I love you, but that's not it. This is what it is. And I'm like, okay, cool. Am I okay to run with whatever? And I'm
exactly. You get
absolutely, and I'll just ask permission for it, and that's how I look at it. So, and to me, those are some of the most informative things I get that really helps me understand the industry. Also, I remember during the whole Series S thing. Remember the whole series, the gaming is being held back by and I was like, all right, let me get to it. Like, what's really going on? And they were like, nah, Cog, it's development time and resources. And I'm like, you sure? I was like, yo, if the S is just a potato, it's a potato. Like, you can tell me. It's cool. Like, I need to know. There's like, no, Cog. It's like time and resources. Not every studio's built different. You know what I'm saying? It can be done. They're standing there. And lo and behold, we saw what happened. What ended up happening with Baldur's Gate. And it ended up coming out, and it ended up being better for everyone as a result of their findings, with the PC stuff. So, to me, that's the good of it, right? And I think that them clarifying and having those relationships with people they trust is actually, a really cool thing. And you can really learn a lot about the industry and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, as far as this tweet specifically, which I didn't see, look, there are going to be some bad actors, right? We're not going to act like there are not people who live on somebody's timeline looking for some little nugget every minute. We know there's those dudes too, right? I'm not going to say that those dudes don't exist, but, I understand the devs trying to be some devs may be very protective of that. And I know some people like that too, where they're like very by the book with me. Like they're very, cut and dry stuff. And all good. I get it. I'm not trying to, leak page one story just off of a conversation we had kind of thing. And then there's other people like, nah, we trust you. So it's a personal thing, but I don't think all devs should feel that everyone is trying to get something out of them. But if they want to be protective, it's on them. That's just me.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the news. We have so much to get into. So let's start off with this one here, which has to do with Activision Blizzard King. After almost 33 years of the company, Activision CEO Bobby Kotick is out as expected. Since then, many former developers have taken to social media to recount the days of working beneath him, from threats to having employees killed that were proven in court, to throwing Overwatch under the bus with a Steam launch that they weren't ready for. And many developers believing his choices made Activision games worse. People are thankful he is gone. Now, while Bobby may be the big name in the exit, many other executives are leaving too. Lulu Chang Maservi, Activision's CCO and EVP, is out in January of this year. King and Blizzard Vice Chairman Hamam Sakini is out. This has led to the restructuring of sorts, as reported by The Verge. Activision Blizzard executives like President Mike Ibarra and Activision Blizzard Vice Chairman Thomas Tipple will now report to Xbox's President of Game Content and Studios, Matt Booty. Meanwhile, Jill Braff is now the new head of ZeniMax and Bethesda Studios. For those unfamiliar, Jill has been the general manager of integrations and casual games at the Xbox Game Studios since 2020. Otherwise, Phil Spencer stated in a memo that leadership teams for Activision, Blizzard, and King will remain in place with no plans to change how the studios and business units are run. So we knew Kotick was going to take his golden parachute out. All the execs are heading out now. Some are staying. So what do you make of this, Cog? Now, this is it. It seems like, from what I've read online, there's a renewed sense of hope at Activision because this era is over. And there was a strong belief, like developers are breaking their silence saying like, this dude, Bobby, made our games worse. And at the same time, it's strange. It's not strange. Sorry. It's weird because as a company, like this dude made them mega profitable too, at the expense of these developers, might I add. But it was one of those catch-22s where, he was making some pretty rough decisions. And I don't say that to sympathize, but just I think the perspective is important in that he was extremely successful. And those are big shoes to fill at Activision because they lead the biggest gaming IP on Earth. So what do you make, of course, of his exit as expected? Certainly, I think the company's going to be for the better for it. But already, Matt Booty now being moved elsewhere. And what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, Bobby's reign is definitely, mixed in the sense of, like you said, tremendous financial success. We cannot deny that part, right? We have to give him his flowers on that part as far as how much money he was able to make and extrapolate with the Call of Duty series and whether or not people agreed with the, 3 or 4 studio rotation or whatever. It did make them money. However, it just goes to show you he was not loved in that building. And also the culture, right? The culture that was going on in there was just not a good one. And one of the key signs to me also is like when Phil and the team went out to Blizzard, just the relief of them now being like a separate entity and being able to operate on their own. I think that is big. It's going to be up to Microsoft, obviously, to handle things very delicately because I've always said, thematically, it sounds good to say, hey, we're going to put you on a bi-yearly thing with Call of Duty. But the reality is it's a moneymaker. And even if they wanted to do that, that's something that wouldn't even take place maybe another 4 or 5 years from now because you're still in the transition process, right?
Look how they handled Starfield and Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush in that sense of how slow that transition is. Now you're handling the largest IP in gaming.
Exactly.
I think we've said this before, but I think people are foolish to expect that this change is going to be immediate. And if it is, I will put my foot in my mouth, but I just don't expect this to be an immediate shift that all the employees and consumers are going to feel.
Absolutely. It is unrealistic, in my opinion. Again, I'll be shocked if they're able to do something quickly to be able to transition to something like that so quickly. So you got that aspect. You got the culture aspect. You have to now listen to what the main gripes and concerns were during the Bobby era. So that's the other thing. Obviously, people like Lulu and stuff like that who are no longer there because here's the reality also. When you transition and you acquire, there are going to be redundancies. And when you have those redundancies, people will be laid off. You can't have multiple marketing people. It's not going to work. So these are now the realities of that. And then the other thing I think I look at it is now with Matt Booty's more responsibility, right? So one thing that I would hope is that there is a team around him in place to help disseminate those responsibilities of now all these things, entities now reporting to you, right? Yeah. So that's how I look at this. To me, this is where the real work begins. Like, you got it. You went through all the legal stuff. You made it to the finish line. You're at the top of the mountain. It's done, right? But now the real work begins in transitioning this into the functionality of Microsoft as a company, as an entity, and Xbox as an entity with ABK, with ZeniMax, and all this other stuff. Acquiring publishers is really big. It's a big deal. As you can see, there's still little transitional growing pains, as we saw with ZeniMax with the Blaze situation. One, where's the Xbox logo? What's going on? Why is it exclusive? People were asking. Then the next day you see, the trailer with Xbox. So again, these are the growing pains of how do we now present? How do we, where do we go as far as hands off, as far as letting them do what they want to do, or as far as like our brand, marketing, stuff like that. So you're going to go through that. To me though, I've always felt, and I've said this always during the whole trial, if they could somehow keep Mikey Barra and Rob Ferguson, they're going to be okay. And the fact that they're able to maintain those two who are former Xbox lifers in those two roles, right, is huge. So the other thing is King, I think that's not going to be, if I had to guess, King probably won't be as difficult because they're this mobile entity that Microsoft don't have no knowledge about how to do that correctly. And they're going to teach Microsoft, right? So King, I'm not worried about. Blizzard, the PC entity, how that store, a little complex there. How do you maneuver that, right? How does that work? How do you integrate that? How does that work? Activision, yeah. When do you transition backward compatibility titles? How do you market the first Call of Duty game into Game Pass? There's a lot of questions. This is work. Work. There's a lot going on here. So yeah, I just look at Bobby's era. Look, we all know damn well he wasn't surviving this. From a public relations standpoint, you cannot be here, bro. You cannot. It's a terrible look. So, yeah, it had to happen. But now, Microsoft, it's on you. Because now, what's the word we use? It's no more excuses. You got all the studios. It's time to execute. And you better have a sound plan, because we can't be having no Redfall situations. We can't be having none of that foolishness. Because you got everything now. I don't want to hear it. You got everything now. So that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah. And I think they need to get into gear quick, because when you look at them as in 2024, I think, and I said this in our last episode that went live, that I think they're poised to have a bigger year this year than last year, where last year a lot of it was hanging on Starfield. But this year, it really hangs less on Bethesda, which one thing you said during that episode that I think will resonate long-term is that it's not on Bethesda to carry Xbox. And that's certainly going to be seen this year, where I think Bethesda will have games this year. They're just teams that have been developing things that are up. But I mean, a lot of Bethesda's main firearms went off. Like Bethesda Game Studios went off. You had Arcane. I know it wasn't good, but they went off with Redfall. Tango went off. So a lot of their teams fired off. You still have Machine Games. We know we're going to learn more about Indiana Jones this year. You have id. There's still teams within Roundhouse. There's still teams within Bethesda that'll be going soon. But it's when you remove Bethesda from the equation last year, Xbox is so screwed.
Yeah.
This year, it's got to be different. This year, you got to show that if Bethesda has a quiet year, that there is someone else, whether it be your own first party, which we're expecting a lot from, or Activision, someone will pick up the slack so that it is not solely on Bethesda to save your brand. And so
absolutely,
I think this year, the balance between Game Pass editions and day one Game Pass drops, mind you, the separation there of what are we doing back compat versus what are we doing for Call of Duty or Diablo or whatever. That pacing is incredibly important for the slower months. I also think that, Bethesda, of course, they're going to have a presence this year. I think we'll talk about Starfield in a little bit, Shattered Space is going to be this year. So they'll still have things happening, but I think it's really important that exclusives are handled well. Naturally, they need to. It's a statement year again in a weird way. I think last year was a statement that they're here to play, and I think they delivered. I know many people will say they didn't, but I think they delivered last year.
Yeah,
I think they, for the most part, Redfall aside, got the job done.
Yeah.
And this year, though, it's okay, you have more to manage than anyone, and how are you going to balance showcasing these games? How are you going to balance releasing them? Because if you have Bethesda and Activision and Xbox all ready to fire off, each of these teams could technically have multiple games this year that are exclusive to the console, which is a problem I don't think anyone's going to really have, but there's only 12 months in the year. and there's only so much money to go around if people want to buy them. And that's where Game Pass can affect them in a positive way. But how do you space that out? They've promised quarterly releases. That's something we've got to hold them to. If they can do quarterly releases, kind of like they did last year, they'll be in a good spot. So I'm expecting a massive year from them this year. Now this is in the rear view. A lot of the conversation for Xbox last year after the game's release was just FTC court analysis. Like that's all it was. Yeah. That haze is gone now. Now it's about your games. It's about your hardware, which we'll talk about the future of that in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm very excited to get to.
Yeah.
There's just so much for them. I think it's an exciting time for them. I really do. Like I'm very excited for their future because I know there will no doubt be another acquisition. We'll go through another phase of that, but I don't think it'll be a big one, but I don't think it'll be on the level of Activision. I could be wrong. Where I feel like the headaches are gone. Let's focus on the games. Like, what's your output going to look like? What can the average Xbox consumer expect from you in the terms of cadence and communication? And so, yeah, now that they're getting some of the bad apples out, or the people who no doubt were just going to take their paycheck and leave, how are you going to reform Activision a little bit?
Yeah.
They have a lot of weight on their shoulders again, and I think it's only going to increase as they inherit more.
Yeah, it's that good pressure. That's how I look at it.
Stress.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. After this, we have some news that'll excite many, I think. It is about Banjo-Kazooie. Toward the end of 2023, Phil Spencer uttered the words Banjo fans have been long desired to hear. Quote, Banjo fans, I hear you, end quote. He said this when speaking about a series that Xbox should bring back, in which Phil also admits the company could be better at. Well, if an insider is to be believed, Banjo is on his way back. Insider Nate Drake, aka Nate the Hate on YouTube, who has had a pretty decent track record in the past, has said the following, quote, Banjo remains an active project, but the project was only greenlit early last year, meaning at the top of 2023. Much has been done and much has to be done, and development can change a ton, ideas abandoned, internal reboots, etc. End quote. So what we have here at Banjo is a couple questions. Number one, how far along is it? But number two, who is working on this, right? Because if it was over a year ago, this is not like what people thought. Like, oh, you got it now, Toys for Bob, right? Like who is it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Who is it? Because I think you now have the obvious internal answer because you own Activision, but you greenlit this project prior. So who could it be? Is really the thing I'm looking toward, because I had a pretty strong confidence like they'd eventually bring this back, because I think Xbox needs, beyond the Activision portfolio with like Crash and Spyro and whatnot, more younger gamer friendly franchises. Yes. It's really important to have those for the new younger subscribers, or for the family plan where the kids get involved, that sort of stuff. So I felt pretty confident Banjo will eventually make his way back. I think it's vital he does. But Cog, if you had to wager a guess, and I really don't have one, that's why I'm dishing it towards you. Can you think of anyone who'd be making this? And of course, what do you make of Banjo likely on the horizon here?
I mean, yeah, that's tough. I don't know who. Right. This is the good thing. The fact that Phil mentioned this is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge.
Pretty obvious,
yeah. That to me is a big deal, because for people who've been clamoring for this franchise, shout out to my boy Addy. He goes so hard to paint for Banjo, bro. He gets so mad if anyone's, why are they doing this? No one wants this. And I'm with him. Even though I'm not the kiddie gamer kind of guy, but I know that Banjo must come. It must exist. You need that diversity in portfolio. You need that younger game. You need that Nintendo Switch demographic. You need those people to be on it. Now, as far as your studio, I mean, what's Rare doing these days?
Sea of Thieves, Everwild is still in development.
Sea of Thieves, let's be real. Like outside of Sea of Thieves, which they've been doing consistent, what has Rare really been doing? Like, I mean, we know Everwild, it got changed the scope, I guess, and then pushed back. And, there's a part of me that feels like the association is there. It should be them, unless they just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So to me, it's got to be but the thing is, Rare is like a shell of themselves now. Not in a negative way, just they're a completely different team and set of talent. Like, I don't know if they're equipped to do a Banjo style game personally. Maybe you may be right. the good sign is that again, if Nate the Drake, who's Nate the Hate, whose track record is fairly good with this kind of stuff. If it's been an active project and it was greenlit early last year, that means they have found a team. Someone stepped up and said, "Yo, we want to do this. Associate with us." I guess I struggle to believe like a new team. I don't know. I struggle with it. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I wonder. I do wonder about that. If Banjo gets a new team before Fallout, I will jump out this window in front of me.
Yeah, this is the great mystery, man. I don't know with that one. But look, it needs to happen. And for all the people who hating on this and like, yo, bro, these type of projects, again, it helps to, again, diversify the lineup. And you never know. If one of these joints hit, what if this joint hits and does really well for them? You know what I'm saying? This is one of those risks you got to take. So, yeah, I'm all for this, man. So anything Phil does when it comes to a shirt, saying something outright or something on the shelf, believe him, is happening.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even prompted about Banjo. It was just like, oh, here's what to bring back. He's like, yeah, Banjo fans, I hear you. And so it's like, to me, that was we talked about it. It was as dead of a giveaway as you could really get that something was happening there. And so this just kind of firms up the when of it all, which is, again, according to the quote here, it remains an active project that was only greenlit early last year. And this comment came out, I might have gotten my timing wrong, because this comment came out at the end of 2023, meaning that this was the top of 2022.
Yeah.
So pretty decently along here. Again, really keen to learn who would be working on this one. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, at least, I would say, I agree with you on one instance with Rare, is that I hope they're involved in some capacity, like oversight or executive production, something that shepherding. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being a little bit of an old head. I've not played much Banjo, but I feel like that's as if, like, when we talk about Fallout, right? We mentioned like, oh, let Obsidian work on Fallout. Like, if Bethesda was not involved at all, it'd be kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it would seem weird.
And I feel like that would sell copies on its own if you could just put the Rare logo on the front of the box with Banjo. Like, that would flip some switches for people in the store. Like, what?
Yeah. And there's a part of me that's like, look, Rare, I get it. Sea of Thieves is popping, but it's like, you're just maintaining a live service at this point. You know what I mean?
He's not doing any audio editing. He'd be punching the air right now.
Listen, I'm not disrespecting. We know the success that Sea of Thieves is. I'm just saying, like, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You can't develop no other games while
we're seeing that happen in real time. We're seeing Everwild. Like, they're trying to walk and chew bubble gum, and let's just say they've tripped a few times too many here.
Well, somebody got to go in there, and Booty got to go in there. That's totally inefficient. Like, we got to just call it what it is. Yeah. Like, you can't get no other projects out. What is going on with y'all? Like, let's be real. I love y'all, Ray. I'm just saying.
No, I know. I think the reason they get a pass is probably because Sea of Thieves
is so
much and it's so big. It's getting partnerships and whatnot. So I feel like that's why they get the pass. But that's a company that I'd be like, I feel like a lot hangs on Everwild whenever that comes around, because it's going to be kind of their first strike out on Sea of Thieves, which is like a major success for them, but just not the success that it's like how people feel about Fallout 76 being a success now. It's like, okay, it's a success, but Bethesda Games is not what we love you for. It's not what we love you for. So come back to the world of single player, will you? And I think that's what's happening here with Banjo. So and Rare. So we'll see where it all ends up.
We'll see what happens.
We have here, this one we'll definitely park it on for a while, because I think we both have a lot to say on it. Definitely our headliner, I feel. Xbox may be starting their next generation in 2026, if recent rumors are to be believed. This is quite different from what we saw in official FTC documentation, which showed that Xbox was aiming for November of 2028 to begin their next generation. In a video by Red Gaming Tech, it is claimed that the plans for Microsoft's next console have shifted quite a bit since the FTC leak. Not only will this new console be released in 2026, but it'll be powered by a Zen 5 CPU instead of Zen 6 like in the documentation. As for the why behind all this, it is said that Xbox wants to set the message for the next generation of consoles like it did so with the 360. The hardware would be less powerful, but it would make it cheaper than the PlayStation 6. It is unknown if Xbox will roll with a 2-SKU approach again like they did with the series consoles, but more rumors propose a cloud gaming-focused console could cover the lower end. Jeff Grubb also chimed in on Games Mess with this to say, quote, there are rumors out there from someone who was part of leaking this stuff on the PlayStation side, but that person is now saying that Xbox will have their own Xbox Next, is what is being called, in 2026. Whether that's the Pro or full follow-up console, Grubb said this leaker is saying stuff is canceled and that they're going to do the Xbox Next faster than they would have done otherwise, maybe moving the start of the next generation by a couple of years, end quote. As always, take this information with a grain of salt as the sourcing seems quite vague. We have a write-in here from Found Waldo. Hey, 2024 Dukes, glad to see you guys back and in good health. Hope you too enjoyed the much-needed break, but while you were gone, the internet got a bit leaky. Well, while I guess we'll let Colin and co tackle the PlayStation side of things, we didn't let them do that. Let's talk Xbox leaks and discuss the imminent future. According to the rumors, Xbox is planning on starting the 10th generation of home consoles early in 2026 and potentially leapfrogging the inevitable PlayStation 6 akin to the 360's 1 year head start it got on the PS3 back in 2005. According to the leaks, true or not, this next generation Xbox would seem to be a huge step forward for the console space, potentially dwarfing the PS5 Pro's potential specs. My question is for you. Do you believe that this is a strategic move by Xbox to ensure a bigger foothold in the console market and regain the competitiveness it once had during the 360 era? Plus, we know that Xbox has a seemingly impressive lineup of future titles in the works, especially compared to what is publicly known from PlayStation. Is this lineup, Hellblade 2, Fable, Blade, etc., in your opinion, a competitive enough one to compete with Sony's dominant slate? Thanks, Dukes, and have a someone get them boys a wrench because this pipe is leaky kind of day. Yeah, so this one, Cog, I want to dish to you right away. I'm dying to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah. Oh man. It's like I'm weirdly torn when I shouldn't be. All right. Here's the thing. So I'm hearing. Obviously, we knew what the initial roadmap was, and we were like, all right, 2028, potentially hybrid console. You know, they skip out. They let PlayStation have the PS5 Pro. You know. And my mindset at the time was, you know what, Cog, what has a mid-generation refresh gotten them, realistically? Outside of the power narrative, which they corrected with the Xbox One X, right? Did it really win them the generation? Right? That's what I said to myself. I was like, Sony still had that God of War, that Spider-Man. They had the game. So my mindset coming in was, we got the games now. You see what I'm saying? You got the studios, you got the games, the draft class of 2018, all those titles, the Hellblades, the Fables, the Avoweds, the Clockwork. What's our joint? Revolution. What's our joint called?
From Clockwork Revolution.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like all the choice. I'm like, they good. They just they don't got to play the power net right now. So I thought about it. All right. So now this came up, and I'm like, all right, 2026. So at first, a little resistant. I was like, I don't know. They should do that. I thought more about it. And the thing that I had to be honest is we got to be honest about this. PlayStation is a global brand. When people think video games, we have to be honest. They think PlayStation, right? That's from a global perspective. So there's a part of me that says, why are you continuing to butt your head against someone and launching direct all the time? Why are you consistently going head up? Why don't you just do the Nintendo? Nintendo beats to their own drum. They come out when they come out, right? So look what Switch did for them when it was in March of 2017 or whatever it was, right? So part of me was like, okay, and then I had to be honest too, Maddie. I was like, what was Xbox's most successful generation?
360.
It's my man Peter Moore.
Yeah.
Right? Peter Moore, the key when he, again, had him on IOP. I'm always going to promote my own damn interview.
Promote that damn
Please
thing,
listen.
Man. It's a good ass interview. Please
listen. The thing he said, we had to be out first. They prematurely ended the OG Xbox's run, right? Because one, they was losing money, and two, they wanted to be out first to market, have that year head start over PlayStation. And man, did it work. But you know what was also the key? People forget the 360's launch lineup was some of the most compelling. That launch lineup and launch window for the first 2 years was insane. You had things like Oblivion, BioShock, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. Like you had all these massive titles.
Yeah. And
then I started looking at them like, yo, you got, the Blaze, the Call of Duties, the Perfect Darks, the Gear 6s, you really could set things off. with a 2026 kind of thing. The only concerns I have is when you come out that quickly, you just want to make sure from a hardware perspective, yields and things, are legitimate, not buggy, no red rings of death. Because, if you come out a little too fast and you don't get a chance to test things. But the other thing I thought about is graphically. And we have to admit this too, Maddie. We're kind of in this weird state, like diminishing returns of graphics. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, we're not seeing the biggest jumps as we once seen in the past. I think we're so close to PC, and we're not, to me, it's the other things you do, whether it be with the AI or whether it be with, ray tracing, all these little graphical techniques and things that in nature. And that's how I see this thing playing out. So I'm not going to front. I am coming around. I'm coming around that if the playbook has changed, because remember, according to Phil, there's like, it's unfortunate what happened to us, with this self-imposed leak that we did, self-inflicted, but just want to let you know that so many things have changed. And there's a part of me that says, you know what, maybe that is the play. Maybe the play is to separate with this, going head up with PlayStation all the time, come out on your own terms, dominate the market. The key to me, though, is going to be the messaging, because how do you explain this to the Series S and X owner? Right? The Series S and X owner that is invested in your ecosystem, we must admit there's going to be some cross-generational component to this, right? I would assume, right, that you're not going to leave behind the Series S and X, completely. But we are going to get to the point where, some stuff, eventually there will be a cutoff. The way I look at it is like phones. There's that modularity to it. So the first couple of years, but then once Starfield, once stuff come out, it was like, oh, this is only on series platforms, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there will be that eventually. I'm curious on how do they deal with the Series S and X. Also, do you do two SKU approach again? And there's part of me that says maybe I don't think you can if you're going to do that with a 2026 Xbox Next, so to speak. A lot of questions. I'm curious what you got to say about it, but if they do this, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I feel their marketing and messaging has to be airtight with this. Yeah. And there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities with Soul, because we have to admit this. With Series X and S, one of the major fumbles was not having compelling software ready for that console launch.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite on the back of the box, and it wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot of little fumbles out the beginning. And let's be real. PlayStation, in my opinion, I'm going to kill for this. I feel they've been coasting over their global brand. I don't feel this is a dominant PlayStation 5 the way PlayStation 4, even though the numbers say, I know what people are going to say.
I agree. I know it'll ring.
People are going to get mad at me for this.
But I agree with you.
You know where I'm going with this.
It's not the same feeling as the PS4 gen.
It's not the same to me as a PS4, right? It's just that they have had, to me, Xbox has not capitalized enough on the fumbles that PlayStation 5 has had. Yeah. Like when they had the terrible 2022, and PlayStation still had at least software to come out. And remember, PlayStation still at least had software at launch. They had a Demon Souls, they had a Miles Morales, they had things to keep them going, right? But I don't feel this was this dominant thing. It's just that Xbox didn't capitalize consistently. They had like good year, bad year, good year, bad year. That's how I look at it. So maybe this helps them. So I'm curious. I've been rambling. I got a ton more to say, but I'm in the middle of it. It's so much to think. Where are you at with all of this?
You said so much that rings true. I think for starters, I just can't help but think about that explanation you have to give the current series console owners, because you don't want to sell this thing short if it marks the start of a new generation, because it'll be interpreted as a pro unit or a Wii U almost, right, where it is this new thing, but it feels like just an addition to the old thing, and it fails spectacularly. Like, you can't afford to not draw the line and say, like, yeah, this is a new generation. Whereas here's where I think they're going to thread the needle. Cloud. I think cloud is where they thread the needle, because they did that with the series consoles. They're like, we're moving on, but if you have an Xbox One, you can do cloud gaming. You can play Starfield on your Xbox One. Play it on your phone if you want. That's going to be their messaging, I think, is like, no one's being left behind, but we're going to make these exclusively for this platform. And I just use my fiance as an example. She's been playing all of her games. We have great internet here, but like she's playing all her games on the cloud. Not everyone is afforded that luxury. So again, Xbox is going to have to be careful, because if you just go all in on that and say like, yeah, cough up another 500, that's where price proposition is key. I think having the Keystone ready by this point, alongside a new major console that is priced in a way where, like, no doubt when PlayStation comes out, they may price higher. That was the golden ticket for the 360, right? Because it was the same thing that happened with the Xbox One. And if anything, it's going to be interesting to see if this is true, the PlayStation response to this, because it's now being leaked. It's not a surprise, and it will change their plans potentially. I think PlayStation wants Xbox to launch at the same time because there is a strength in that. There's an overshadowing in that.
Good point.
And I think Xbox separating from that is a big deal. And I don't think they'd be foolish to build their plans around Xbox, but they definitely have to monitor them. We saw the slides. They are taking the playbook, and that may scare them if they're like, yo, they're going to now, with this entire ecosystem they've established, with all of their acquisitions they've established, turn it up to the next year and move into this cloud console hybrid that they were just talking about way sooner than we're ready to go, because our console is doing really well. And you talked about coasting. Why would PlayStation be ready to go for a new system right now? They are doing so well. So I anticipate that they won't respond, and that Xbox will be in this position where they can, what I view it as, and it should have been the Series X and S. And it's taken long. I think 2023 was a bit of a flag plant, although maybe not as in the moment as it should have been, right? It should have been in 2020. It wasn't, right? They delay Halo Infinite. They do what's best for the game. It hurts the launch of their system. I think they want to have, like you should have, a launch for a new system that is like flag in the ground. I was looking it up while you were talking. 360 had 18 launch games.
Bro.
To go from that to zero, to go from what the Xbox One had, which was a phenomenal launch lineup.
Yes.
Love that launch lineup. It's why I was there day one. PS4 had the more compelling sales pitch, but guess who had, in my opinion, the better games? It was Xbox. You had Killer Instinct. You had Dead Rising. You had Rise. You had so many great games. Not that PlayStation didn't, but I think Xbox just, I was like, hey, you can beat 900p. If you're selling me this type of stuff exclusively, like, I'll be there 100%. And to go from that to zero is unacceptable. I think now that they have the undoubtable amount of IP and so much in the pipeline, they can have, we talked about it for 2028, and we'd have to reanalyze the slate once more for 2026. They can have a really dominant start to the generation that is a major sales pitch of like, you got to be here to experience these. But I wonder, man, because that would be, for a lot of Xbox, it's like, you got to price it right and you got to communicate right, because that is telling people, like, it just, for a lot of people, 2023 marked the start of the Xbox generation. You look at the gap that 2022 was, 2021 was really good for them, I felt. It feels like they have only had 2 good years in what is now our 4th year of the generation. Yeah. Half of which they were absent for. Yeah. And so I look at that and I'm thinking, like, and you're going to ask them to cough up more? So I think that's where the payment plan is good. Remember, they did that with Game Pass on the console, like $20 a month, and it's yours to own, no interest. But the thing is, dude, we're leaning in on Xbox communication. Yes. Their communication sucks. It's bad. And even Game Pass, especially, should be the thing. This is your weapon against PlayStation and Nintendo. You should be beating every fucker over the head with the fact that you've got Game Pass. That as prices are going up, yours are somehow going lower. Right. That you are defying the odds because you're Microsoft. And the fact that they're not, like, on every sports commercial, that it's a little tagline, the fact that you are not preaching this thing and making it nauseating how much it is marketed is beyond me. And so if you're saving that for the next wave, which is in a couple of years, okay, maybe I can tolerate it. But Xbox's communication and marketing has left a lot to be desired. I think outside of Starfield, where they really, like, they did a great job marketing Starfield, the developer direct, the trailers, the consistency in conversation, like, that was a steady incline. There was a window of time in 2022 where it was like, what's going on here? But 2023 from the get-go was like right uphill. And then you got that direct, and they just coasted from there. And it was fantastic in the terms of, like, if you're appreciating the business and the marketing, not the product, ladies and gentlemen, so calm down. Otherwise, though, I don't really, trust their ability to communicate fully, because you got Tim Stewart saying one thing, you got Phil saying another, you have Sarah saying something else, Matt Booty saying something. Like, there's not consistent messaging in this company, and for them to get it together this quickly, and also there's no rumor of dev kits going around, so like any sort of exclusive hardware, like they could end up selling this as like a pro unit, as another entry in the Xbox family, but I think that would be a mistake to just, you'd send the thing out to die. But I think they're too afraid to lose as big as they did during the Xbox One. So I hope they commit, and I hope they commit hard if they're going to do this, because to me that line in the sand of like, okay, you know, series generation is kind of fuck around and find out, and like, here we are, we got all the tools, we got all the weapons, and here, let's let it all fly loose here in a new generation. Especially if it's going to be that cloud console hybrid, you can't help but think of Kojima's game as like one of the leads for a system like that. You think of again, a cloud kind of horror game, and I think of the Keystone launching alongside it. Like, that could be the dual SKU. Like, oh, you don't want to buy this new console? You can access these games for $100 with this little dongle here. I could go on, but it's really like there's no right answer. And if it ends up being true, as you said perfectly, it will have to be airtight messaging that communicates like, this is the next thing, and this is a big thing, and this is not a Scorpio or whatever. Like, this is the big thing.
Right.
And we're going to use cloud and Game Pass to keep you up to date if you don't want to buy this next thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that one thing I will give them a little bit of credit on a pushback slightly is that I'm with you on Game Pass and their own games. Y'all got, outside of Starfield as the outlier, which did get promoted, most of the time I'm like, damn, y'all don't be doing a good job with this promotion. Like, oh, y'all got to get this together, especially Game Pass. Y'all should be shouting that from the rooftops all the time. I will say this though. They know how to promote hardware and controllers like nobody's business. Like, when it comes to hardware, they know how to. They'll show you the graphic. They got a way about promoting hardware in this really sleek, cool way that I find it's funny. They don't have the same energy towards the games. Go ahead.
Real quick, sorry.
Go for it.
I had a thought as you said that may explain something.
All right, let's go.
Do you remember when we were like, what's going on? Why are you guys not producing a unique Series X for Starfield? And why would you start? Maybe I'm galaxy braining it too much. I might sound like an idiot right now. But I'm willing to. It's my first week back, so whatever.
You're good.
But because I looked over at my Series X and I'm like, oh yeah, like I have the Starfield wrap on it. I'm like, maybe that's why they're not going to do these kind of collectible consoles, and went for the wraps instead, because they're like, this shit's not going to be.
They're going to be like a temporary solution, like a Band-Aid. Yeah.
So I just, as you said, hardware and stuff, I'm like, I was like, that seemed off for them.
It's a very curious choice, right?
Yeah, right.
Very curious.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It just crossed my head. I had to put it out there.
No, I like that. It's going to be interesting. But to your overall point, we both in agreement. This messaging, if it's to be the case, it could work, but it has to be airtight. And I'm curious. I will say this though, man, with all the games that you mentioned, like OD, Blade, Elder Scrolls within that window, I mean, it could on next generation hardware could be kind of intense, bro. You're talking 360 era of launch to the first 2 to 3 years of insane content, and you get to usurp PS5 Pro fairly quickly. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll be out. Hopefully, the thought process is this year at the end, but they won't be in the market super long. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So, yeah, we got to see. It is an interesting strategy if true.
Yeah, I just it's like the one piece of news from this week that I just kept spinning my head on, or spinning my wheels on, and just like, how could they pull this off, right? And I only, like, why would they want to do this is also what I was asking myself. And I think the why is an unfortunate truth of, like, they need to draw the line in the sand again.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, look, this has been a really messy generation for them. They went a full year with no marquee exclusives. They didn't launch with a set of games. Like, I can imagine they're happy with where they're at now, but I would not be surprised if there was a underlying disappointment in, like, hey, we are not having the gen we wanted sales wise. Like, we're successful, but like, we expected more. Like I would imagine expectations have been higher in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
And now they have the amount of tools and weapons where it's kind of like you have no excuse. Like unless people are just not working and all have gone on strike, you should have games coming out regularly now. So I was spinning my wheels a lot on this one because it's very exciting. Like I love the 360 generation. When I started seeing those parallels, I was like, yo, my immediate thought was do it. I was like, do it. But I think they need that line in the sand to kind of create a separation. And I do think they need to start again sooner than later. It makes once I heard the rumor, I was like, this would make sense for where they're at in the gen. That it's a reset button. Unfortunately, like I think that's really what it is. Like I think they still have, if they have that incline we're expecting, where it's like, okay, you got Activision, and like 2024 is a good year, and like let's keep building up and let's keep bringing more exclusives to the platform, and let's build out Japan and whatnot. Come 2026, they could be sitting pretty and be like, okay, and here's the next thing, right? And that could be strong for them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this all ends up, but we'll certainly monitor it closely.
We will monitor.
I almost forgot my timestamp.
Stamp.
All right. What do we have here next? Starfield. Good. All right. This is deep enough in the episode. Many of you have tuned out by now. In a closing message for 2023, Bethesda has shared that Starfield has surpassed 13 million players and marks it as their biggest launch in company history. More importantly, they've given us a roadmap of sorts to sift through, even if it's a bit skimpy on details. Bethesda Game Studios will be targeting updates every 6 weeks starting in February, which will feature things like quality of life improvements all the way to content and feature updates. They reaffirmed that they'll be adding new ways to travel and be able to access city maps in major cities of the game. They also plan to expand ship customization with ship decorations, new ship building options, and more. Bethesda will be adding new gameplay options to make things more easy or challenging beyond their, quote, normal, end quote, difficulty setting, which allows you to customize carry capacity, cargo access distance, ship damage, vendor credits, how you suffer afflictions, new survival mechanics, and more. Official mod support alongside the launch of creations will be arriving at the beginning of the year as well. Lastly, they confirmed they're working on Shattered Space expansion, while also stating that it will arrive this year as it introduces new story content, locations, gear, and more. So, Cog, here we are. This is I talked a bit about I wanted a roadmap. I got some pushback saying like, oh, look at like what Cyberpunk's roadmap was. Baldur's Gate roadmap was kind of the product of lots of years of early access. And I think those were all fair critiques of my comments. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is more what I'm looking for. Just I don't need the full, like, this month we're doing this. But like, what's your commitment to the game? What are you bringing out? And so it seems like everything we're talking about here are all going to be free updates, and that whatever they're adding in Shattered Space will learn maybe like the summer showcase this year, I imagine. So with what's here, Cog, for you, as a bona fide Starfield lover.
Yes.
What speaks to you here? What excites you? What disappoints you maybe?
I'm just happy Shattered Space is this year. Now that we're in
we
2024.
figured with the schedule leak from the FTC, that would be the case, right?
Yeah, like that. I can't wait to dive back in with new content, and look, the quality of life stuff, I wasn't too worried. I mean, because obviously we heard a little bit prior that, hey, we're gonna have new modes of travel. We're gonna have, these kind of things. I will say that point about how you suffer afflictions and survival mechanics, I'm very interested in, because I think you made a good point earlier when you were kind of like, you could tell with the way some of the food items are in Starfield, like they look like they were trying to go into that, but they didn't really full on commit.
Yeah.
And because like,
the product of like testing, they were like, yeah, this is too hard. Like, let's just.
Yeah. And they like, oh, just put it there. And now, because it felt like, you're supposed to be eating food for a reason and stuff like that. Because I honestly never really I use a lot of those like MedXs or whatever those things are to heal myself. But I never really found the legitimate place for food. Like as far as like to my gameplay loop, I had a ton of it, but I don't know about you. Did you really utilize food a lot in the game?
It took up so much weight in my inventory.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it later. I didn't use it at all.
Yeah. So to me, that shows survival mechanics. So I'm curious about that. And then
the afflictions on planets were like null. So I'm excited to see how they kind of overhauled those, because I think that'll be combined with those survival mechanics, no doubt.
And carry capacity, the elephant in the room. We got to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
How that, I will admit, that was a big turnoff for a lot of people. It
Yeah.
really takes you out of the game to be like, thank God in the beginning, Vasco yelled at me and he was like, hey, I noticed you're doing all of this and why don't you give me some of your stuff? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because again, I'm a hoarder in these type of games. So yeah, the fact that they are addressing that. And then what they say with the ships? They said ship damage. What the
More
word?
ship customization,
Hmm.
ship building options, ship
Yeah.
decorations,
Interesting.
which
I
I
will
like. I
say,
mean, that's like the best part of the game, in my opinion. Like that
yeah,
was such a great feature.
yeah. No, I agree. No, that's pretty much what it is. It feels like a lot of the nitpicks and things that people did have that may have disconnected them, especially the fact that they really, I felt they didn't do a good job of if it wasn't for Addict really breaking this thing down and going through step by step. Oh no, this is how you do it. I'm like, oh, okay, you kind of like Lego block this thing out, and then you got to bring this thing in and make sure that like it really assumes way too much of the player to know, like they know what they're doing. And like, I really feel like they have to address those issues. So it seems that every single thing here is about that, which is to me a good sign. But ultimately, my number one thing that I'm most excited for, Shattered Space. I want to go back into this world. I want to know what you're going to do. Is it going to be any, what is it? What's our Team Varun, Project Varun?
House of Varone. Yeah.
House Varun. We got to see what's going on with them. Or do they take a spin on, what we consider, you know, hashtag spoiler Starboard and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm curious. What about you?
I like that they're committing to every 6 weeks. I think that's a good cadence. I hope they're more feature rich. I think one of the big problems with Starfield out the gate and why it led to such a snowball of criticisms of the game is that as games around them, which despite their circumstances and whatnot, as updates rained in a massive way for them, Starfield was like, here's DLSS. And it was like, here's a quest fix. We're going on holiday break now. And we're like, what the even I was like, guys, I get it. Like, and certainly after releasing this game, I'm sure there was a lot of well-deserved time off, but like, it was also as a consumer, like, what the fuck are we doing here, man? Um, so to commit to every 6 weeks or so, give or take, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, good to see. I think that is a good cadence as long as the features are there. Like each of these features should be listed in one of these updates leading into June, I hope, where you get a good look at Shattered Space. As I'm not going to toot my own horn too much here. As I predicted, though, creations are going to be in Starfield. I told everyone that Starfield, I don't think is going to be this game that gets a sequel. I think Starfield is a one and done that they are going to support with mods and creations and DLC for years. And that is how they're going to move with probably Elder Scrolls 6 and whatnot, because their games are just played far longer than most traditional single player games. So yeah, creations, for those who didn't pay attention to when we covered it here on the show with Skyrim, is basically paid mods. That's what it is. And so I'm excited about that because while there are many claiming that mods are not going to fix Starfield, I do have faith that this game will bounce back in a meaningful way. Because look, this is a little off topic, but if Fallout 76 has found its way, I have a lot of faith that Starfield will find its way, which people will scoff at. I'm just saying though, if 76 can find its way, if Cyberpunk From the Brink can find its way, if No Man's Sky can find its way, Starfield, which is at the bare minimum a competent game that functions, can find its way. So I feel good that they're doing consistent updates and committing to it. And I don't think it's as royally fucked as the industry seems to believe it is, if I may speak freely on that. All right.
Little bit.
So what else I really like here is Shattered Space in 2024. My question mark with that one is going to be this, okay? With Shattered Space, this is likely in development as the game launched, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the hard work is going to be done this year. With that in mind, a lot of the criticism bubbled in the last, I'd say, 2 months or so, right? Like it was, September was positive, October, you could feel a little trickling, and then November and December were just shit shows. And so if you're Bethesda Game Studios and you put out a big, meaningful expansion and it doesn't provide answers to your game's critical problems, the question will be, then what are you doing? So I wonder if, as they were designing this, how much was pivoted. And I say that because one thing that Bethesda Game Studios has guarded so closely has been, hey, anything we do with our game, we are very careful with the addition of anything because we're afraid it will break it. So I think Starfield is in this extremely precarious position of game development caution where everyone's afraid the whole thing's going to break. And so even so that they put in the Bethesda net post, like, test out our updates on Steam beta. So it's going to feel very early accessy here too. Like, and I could see the videos now if one of these updates comes out and this game is destroyed from it. I mean, it's just going to provide that same thing that happened with Ubisoft. Like, oh, the game's broken and you broke it more with your updates. So I'm curious if Shattered Space will lead to the meaningful changes people are looking for. Like, will Shattered Space be more of a widespread edition of things? Will it be more of a focused star system experience? Again, I'll just tell people what I learned, which is like Bethesda Game Studios, which they have never done in the history of any of my content creation, reached out to me after I reviewed the game and said, hey, are there any changes that you would like to have specifically reach the development team? And I said to them, exploration. I was like, please, more meaningful, which has never happened. That was in the launch window of the game. So they seemed pretty eager to collect feedback early, where maybe it was early enough that there was that impact there. But yeah, I was happy to offer them that and be like, I said, there's just way too many procedural pieces of content. There's too many repeats. I said, whether it's a procedural pack or something of value that is discovered in between these large stretches of nothing, you need better exploration. You need to figure it out quick. And naturally, that's been the big complaint with the game since then. So I'm hoping that Shattered Space is that answer with how early they've collected feedback. We'll see. Who knows how long it's been in development for. It also, Cog, and I'll kick it to you here. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they're releasing it next year. We're imagining it's going to be end of next year, right? Mm-hmm. If they're releasing it then. Does this mean we're like kind of in a live servicey bag where it's like yearly expansions? Like, do you think Starfield, if they're firing off one this quickly, this is probably being seen as we see the player count on Game Pass, at least in the terms of where it places in the top played games on Xbox. It's sold really well. Like, there's a huge install base out there. 13 plus million players have picked up Starfield. And I think for Game Pass, they see this as, given that it led to the single most subscriptions through a game in the service's history, they want to pump this thing every year probably, right? So I don't know if I'm fully of the side of the camp of like believing that this will be the one trick answer to the game's problems. I think it's going to be a little more gradual, unfortunately. And hopefully what happens in 2024 is these little updates they have here planned out, what we know and don't know, amount to some kind of growing optimism. And then the cherry on top is the expansion. And then we're good to go from there. Because then the narrative can be Starfield is finally the game it was supposed to be at launch, as we I imagine it will happen. But what do you think is going to happen with the cadence here? How much content do you think will be? Because they're calling it an expansion, and a BGS expansion is no joke.
Yeah, it is no joke. Substantial. I think, I'm of the mindset that this was probably, like you said, developed in tandem with the game, right? So there's a part of me that, as much as I would like to hope that the feedback that they received would be all the way implemented in that, I still have the mindset that that's going to be what we consider the 6-week, every 6-week kind of cadence update to the game that fixes foundational issues. Yeah. Right. I feel like the expansion team, I'm almost treating this like a live service because I feel like that's the live. I call it the live team. What the live team is, they doing the day-to-day fixing, the patching, what's going on. Okay, you guys didn't like this. Okay, cool. We're going to try to fix these things up to make the core foundation good. Whereas I feel the expansion guys, those are the main guys that really did the story also, for Starfield in general. And I think they've got their overall vision. I would hope that they would be able to include both, but I got to be realistic. I'm not sure. To your point, Phil did say they want this to be the most played Bethesda game ever, right? We already saw what this thing was doing 2 to 3 months after release from a most games played perspective, which was unreal. Like, it was just how much this game was played, right? So to me, I could see a situation where maybe a yearly or biannual kind of, expansion kind of thing, because it does play like a live service in a way because it's so vast and kind of thing. So yeah, like to me, I'm excited about it. Like I obviously I'm biased. I love this game, right? But you know, I want to live in it. I want to see where it transforms, how it evolves. Do we have that conversation, like you stated, where it's like, hey, this is where Starfield is now, right? Look at where it's at, and you continue to do these innovative things. So I do think the mod community is really going to transform this game something special. I really do. And the main thing is story. I just want this. There's so much things to be told still, and I think there's a lot of potential here. So my gut says, back just to wrap it up, my gut says I don't know if expansions will address the major issues that gamers want. I think before expansions, those get addressed by the live team, though. Yeah. I do think the fact that they mentioned the every 6 and they mentioned travel, they mentioned the survival, they mentioned shit, that's already part of the live team's docket. So to me, that's a great sign. That means you're constantly going to now get on a cadence to fix the things, the issues that we have with it. And then the expansion is the major story stuff and bringing everything together. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm interested in the multiple ways that the new ways to travel, I should say, because I'm less optimistic on that front, as I shared on this show on my own channel. I'm not thinking that like people are like, oh, they're going to like crack it wide open and like you're going to be able to zip around a solar system and like you're going to be able to like get in a mech on a planet and just zip around. I'm just like, I don't know what the hell it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to suddenly be this major new feature that's going to just fix the main problem with the game design wise. I think that's going to come in an expansion, because again, if 76 can expand its map, then I truly believe Bethesda can solve this problem here with the exploration. So we'll see.
No, you may be right.
We'll see. But that's enough Starfield. Thank you to those who listen to all of that. All right. What do we got here next? Last one. Coming soon to Xbox Game Pass is the first batch of the new year, and Xbox plans to keep you mighty busy. On January 4th, Hell Let Loose comes to Series X and S, PC and cloud. January 9th, Assassin's Creed Valhalla comes to console, PC, and cloud. January 9th also brings Figment to console, PC, and cloud. On January 11th, you get Super Mega Baseball 4. And We Happy Few... Why was that not there? Oh, yeah, we talked about that. That was
Yeah.
Console, PC, and cloud. January 16th, you get Resident Evil 2 and Those Who Remain on console and PC cloud. Meanwhile, leaving Xbox Game Pass soon is, on January 15th, Garden Story, MotoGP 22, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden. Look out. Saying goodbye, but don't worry, you already got 5 Tactica and you got Persona 3 Reload on the way, so you'll still be taken care of by Atlas. So COG, pretty good addition here. Pretty good set of additions here. Anything standing out to you?
No, Valhalla is huge as far as the length of that game.
Yeah,
so that was interesting. I was surprised that wasn't in Game Pass early, because I remember that was like early towards the launch of the console, and they had the marketing rights, I believe, to Valhalla. I'm gonna say. So yeah, for those who want to get on that, hey, you want to dive into a game that'll take your whole life away? It's that game. That right there.
They kind of Ubisoft kind of does what Bethesda Game Studios does, like Fallout, Far Cry 6, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like they just steady updates, steady change, like expansions, new updates constantly. Like they the same exact thing. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I mean, I thought it was long when I first played it. I really liked it, but I thought it was long when I first played it. But
Jesus,
holy shit, imagine it now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What about you, man? For you,
Resident Evil 2. This is a game I definitely don't think I loved on enough when it first came out. I didn't review it, but like I played it. I was like, okay, cool. I enjoyed that. But as I got away from it, I was like, that remake is like arguably, like, I love Resident Evil 5. I'm a weirdo like that. I just love the co-op and the jank and the one-liners, and Wesker is a villain. And it was my first real introduction to the series. And I think co-op works really well with it. It's not a great story, but I have like a soft spot for 5. I adore it. I think it's really fun. But in terms of like traditional gritty Resident Evil, I've kind of been like a mixed bag on it. Like I think they're all great, but like I think Resident Evil 2 remake was a game that I played, I really liked. I was like, okay, like I played it with Laylee. I was like, this is fun. Moved on. And like as the years went on, I was like, that was really good. Like that was an extremely good game. Its replayability, its speedrun capabilities, its upgrade systems, its beautiful mix of like meaningful gameplay changes, like being able to aim in and move around. And at the same time, like Mr. X being this really unique villain that just stalks you around. Like when you're running at this pace and you just hear the stomping behind you, you will emit some weird noises as it's happening because you're like, oh, get away from me, come on. Like, so yeah, it's that's a really good time. And I recommend if you have yet to check it out, none of the, Resident Evil 2 is not long at all. None of the campaigns are long. You can bust through them in a couple of hours. Definitely give it a look. Really good stuff there.
No doubt.
Otherwise, as for exits, I mean, look, if we've preached the good word of Persona here for years. If you've not played these games, go buy them. Maybe not Persona 3 portable, but 4 golden. Get to work, damn it. Get to work. All right, let's mark that timestamp and move on to our Game Pass pick of the week, which I handled this time around. So one game that I did play during my holiday break for a few hours that I want to get back to, but also another co-op game kind of took me by storm, which I'll talk about like next week or something. War Tales. So gave War Tales a pretty big swing here during the holiday break. I got a group of 4 in there. You start things up. You can customize your own soldiers, give them backstories and everything. So my friends and I, what we did was we made each other significant others, which was hilarious. So we were role playing as each other's like wives or fiancés or girlfriends, and it was a hilarious time. But nonetheless, we went around and you're in this kind of open world, and you walk as a caravan to these various villages and you pick up missions and whatnot. And what is really cool is I feel like you'd love the combat cog, very XCOM-y, but high risk. Like one of my friends was a rogue kind of character and he got killed pretty quickly. And like we had to go recruit someone from a bar, and like you can then rename that person and like create a new character off of it. So it's not like you lose that one you made technically forever, but you lose their loot. Like you lose their weapons, armor, you lose their skills that they gradually get in combat. It's a deeply complex game, like a lot of hidden systems and menus, but it's a lot of fun. There was this one part we found a farm nearby, and someone was kind of just chilling on the wayside. We talked to them. They're like, "Hi, welcome to blah 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 farm. It's great to have you here. Have a poke around. If you need to explore the shop, let us know." I see to the right, I see this little hatch. I'm like, "What's that? It's locked." And I'm like, "Okay." Like we find a key. I'm like, "Okay, let's check this out." So you go inside the hatch, and there are slaves down here. I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And so we talk to them. They're like, "We're free. We're free." Oh my god! I'm like, "All right, hold up. I got to go talk to the person upstairs and ask what's going on." So you come upstairs. No one's there.
Oh.
I'm like, my whole group's like, wait. So we leave. As we're trotting along, here comes the plantation owner. And they're like, "So you decided to snoop around. You got 2 choices here." And it was this moment of like, yo, that was like good kind of storytelling just out of nowhere. Like, I didn't expect that at all going in that area. So the game is peppered with little things like that, where you make choices, you get into fights. Every battle feels high stakes because you don't want to lose your most precious soldiers. Healing and resting is really important. Everyone has a skill or a job they can complete at camp. Like someone can work on the campfire to improve the group's happiness, or you can have like a thief work at the chest with like goods you've stolen, and they can sell them on the market. So like everyone's got their own roles on the team. Like it's really cool. It's a really cool game that I have to say I'm looking forward to coming back to. I wanted to check it out late last year. As many people know, I didn't get to it. But checking it out during the break, I had a really good time with friends on this one. I do recommend War Tales. So that's my Game Pass pick of the week. I played it on PC. I don't think it's on consoles, but
no, I play. It's on console.
Oh, it is on console. Okay,
I did play briefly on console.
How does it play there? Because there was a lot of tucked in menus on PC, and I was like, this doesn't feel like everything feels so hidden. Like leveling up, I was like, wow, I didn't know this was up here under this menu.
Control wise, I was actually surprised at how it's mostly intuitive. I did like the long range combat, the archers in the game. I felt those were really cool. It was dope. The only thing that messed me up was this came out around the time another turn-based game came out. I ended up falling in love with the other one, and it was the one I was telling you about, that King Arthur's Knight of the
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, that was like a demo, and I'm like, man, I'm really feeling the King Arthur
Mm.
joint. You know what I'm saying? But this was good. This was definitely good, and I want to go back to it and really give it a fair shot.
Good co-op
But
game.
that's dope that you played. I didn't know that you played.
Yeah. I didn't grind it a ton, but I played for a good few hours, and like it was one of those things where okay, hold on, let me grab it. Hold on, where is it?
Go. What you doing?
So I ended up not playing more War Tales. Got to pick this game up with a buddy, and
Temtem.
yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, Temtem's kind of lit. So I'll talk about that more in the coming weeks. But like it's only 2-player co-op, but I've been playing with a buddy, and like it's really good. So I'm excited to talk about that more. But that's what kind of pulled me away from War Tales. I was like, all right,
bro, so many games, bro, many,
too many good things to play. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's my Game Pass pick of the week, War Tales. Check it out. We have one final question here, Cog, and then we're out of here for our first episode of the new year. James Solaire writes in, pardon me. Hey, Duke Boys, congratulations on making it through another year. I know New Year's resolutions are cliche, but I was wondering if you guys have any goals or resolutions in the new year. Best, James S. Thank you, James, for writing in. Cog, do you have a New Year's resolution? Do you have anything you're like, this is new year, new me. Here's what I'm gonna do.
Not the new year, new me. Oh man. Well, I'm already starting off bad with this one. Just trying to be more healthy and not as sick all the damn time. You know what I mean? It's just I've been really, I've been good with my vitamins. I've been good with, trying to do a lot of things to be preventative, kind of thing. But like I think lesson learned is maybe I got to take this flu shot a little bit more seriously, so this way I can avoid these extended periods of being down kind of thing. But no, other than that, look, I think 2024, it should be an exciting year, obviously, for content-wise for Xbox. We expect a lot of good things. As far as me professionally, I got some goals. I want to try professionally move on to some things and continue to grow myself in the games industry. And then as far as podcasting, obviously, Defining Duke is still rocking and rolling. So I got that going. But other than that, what about you?
I've been a New Year's guy. I have been in the past, but honestly, as of these last few years, it's for me been more about, fine tuning. So, like for example, I think I'm doing all right where I don't need to really overhaul anything, which I think is a good position to be in. But I'm able to because I'm always making changes to my life, I guess is how I look at it. So like health is wealth. I didn't wait for into 2024. Although I didn't really exercise at all during my break. I definitely took the liberty of just like, I'm going to plop my ass on the couch or in this seat, and I'm going to enjoy just the life of luxury for a couple of weeks here.
Rest is good, bro.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to act like I fixed my sleep schedule or anything. Maybe sometimes I got less sleep than usual, but I think I needed that lack of structure for a good set of weeks to just kind of, again, degen it up, just really bask in my games, bask in my entertainment, and just do nothing else really. That was nice for me. That was therapeutic for me. So what that taught me is I don't need to do it to one extreme or the other. My goal this year is to take a few more breaks. And instead of like one massive break, maybe just pump the brakes multiple times a year. I'm working with a handful of editors now where it's like, okay, maybe I could start producing more frequently stuff in advance to sort of set the table where instead of like, going away for 2-3 weeks like I did this time around, it's like, you know what, maybe during April I go away for just like a week, but everything's like all taken care of.
A week off. Yeah. That
sort of stuff I think is healthy. I think I need it more. Something Colin and I briefly talked about is just like needing to work a little less. Right now I'm in that position where I'm young and I need to be smart with how much I'm working to not fuck myself up later. But at the same time, I'm in this position where everything's trending up and I kind of need to make sure I can simmer down and make these selections, which I'll explain in a moment. I need to kind of maximize what's happening now. By that, I mean like we have Duke, this growing platform. We have Retro Rebound, a growing platform. Mr. Matty, I don't know how much more it's really going to grow, but like it's there, it's established. And then I'm working on this game. And I think like game development, in a sense, is a big part of my future. And like I do genuinely see there may be a time that I wind down the Mr. Matty operation because Retro Rebound is way more healthy for my schedule. It's 2 videos a week. It's just
Mhm.
manageable no matter what I'm doing. And it's more focused on the celebration of games. I think a lot of my values, if people can tell over the years, really shifted where like when I came back and I just saw it was like more and more like whining about games, I'm just like, what are
Mhm.
we doing? I was like,
That's
what?
funny.
I was like,
I want
what
to
are
talk
we?
about
And
that too
so
with
like,
social
I
media.
guess a
Yeah.
lot of my goals aligned with that is like, okay, I can't change the world as much as I would like to. And not everyone's going to feel the same sense of optimism that I do. And I'm not Mr. Peppy, happy go lucky, everything's perfect, which I think I've shown in the past. But um, you know, I just feel like we're so downtrodden as a gaming community. And
Oh,
I guess for me, I'm like, okay, what's the most uplifting parts of that? And it's like Mr. Matty is a great channel, but it is right in the thick and in the mire of modern gaming. And that is not always like great conversation. And so I see a future where if like my game does really well or well enough and I can make that healthy transition where it's like, okay, I can work within my own company and then do Retro Rebound and Defining Duke. That's much more ideal to me because like usually during these winter breaks, for example, I do a ton of writing, which I have done,
mhm.
but normally I do a ton of writing. And leading into like we started taking off for me, it was like the 17th. I had to work a few extra days to get everything situated. Um, the first week and a half, I did not do anything writing wise, which I needed to, by the way. And it just spoke to me. I was like, I'm really overburdened and I need to be careful because eventually the quality can slip if I'm not. And so that's
Mm.
why I've established more like teammates and team members, and I've been lucky to do that. But it's just said to me that I really need to emphasize this year, not the health is wealth, go to the gym, as much as like health is wealth is sometimes this time away from the gym and how
Absolutely.
you spend it. And
Rest.
so I learned that. And the last thing I'll just say is Laylee and I have really shifted our diets a lot in the last few months where um, farm food, organic foods.
Mm.
And as we led into the holidays where it was like we were getting the house put together, I don't know if you noticed, like I'm in a completely different part of my office now.
Yes,
Yeah.
the so far is different.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I have so much more room here. Like we actually got to set the house up. Like we had time to breathe, set the house up. But because we were like getting everything ready for a big family party, no time to really cook like we usually did. And so lots of frozen foods, takeout. And dude, like you feel it. Like this food kills you. It's crazy. And so I went from like no swaying and feeling good to like back where I was months ago in a matter of a
Mm.
couple of weeks because we just had to shift our lifestyle due to the circumstances around us. And so one of my goals this year is really just to stay with that diet because I knew how important it was to me and I wasn't going to go away from it. But seeing just how like when you put that stuff in your body, how I respond to
How
it,
it
you can
affects you.
call me
Yeah.
sensitive, but like man, it just fucking it's like wow, I just need to stick with this. This is so important. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's little things like that, you know, in the sense of taking care of yourself. The big thing that's eluded me, and I just can't attach to a New Year's resolution, is like sleep. I
Yeah.
just something always gets me carried away. Like last night, I got in bed at 2, which is decent for me, and I was up to like almost 4, like doing things for my game from bed because I was just like,
Eh.
oh, I gotta check like Milano, and I gotta check like what's going on
Mhm.
here, and like oh, I can like revise these script edits, and like I'm just doing this all, and then I'm like, it's 4, bro. Like what am I doing? I could have been asleep for 2 hours by now. So it's self control too. I think that's I guess if I could put
Yeah.
a New Year's resolution to it, it's like I'm good with self control in pretty much every
Mm.
facet except my sleep, and so I need to figure that out.
No, those are good points. I think one point that you mentioned that I resonated with me, and I think we talked about it offline too during the break. Because I didn't want to bother you. I was like, I don't let that man chill. He,
Oh,
you know
really?
what I'm saying?
I was thinking the same thing for you. I was like, he doesn't need to be bothered by
I
me.
was like, I didn't might bother him. I think part of me is just like lately I've been having the love hate with social media, and there was a part of me that was just like happy for the disconnect complete,
Yeah.
and not really paying attention. And I popped my head up with a couple things. My Niners are playing, so I get to talk a little bit with that. But there's a part of me that's just like the, for the people I love and respect. they truly make it a joy to interact with, right?
Yeah.
But then there's people are just like, I really don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to battle with you. You know what I'm saying? Because of your opinion on how you may disagree with something. And I just think, and it's not, I should take that back. It's not like I'm getting all this abuse online. That's not the case. And I'm actually very fortunate. I get mostly positive reception. But what is exhausting is you get on and it's like, oh, yo, Kyle, this is the new drama that went down. You ain't know? And I'm like, every day it's just a new drama and thing. And I'm just like, damn, dude is beefing over this. And so it really has nothing to do with me specifically, but sometimes it is exhausting to see so much of the negativity and people beefing over video games. Like, and it just, at some point, it's like, bro, it's New Year's Day. Y'all console warring on Christmas. Y'all console warring on, like, really? Like, we really doing this?
I saw the same shit on Christmas.
Like, no one's putting their weapons and their guns down. There's no ceasefire ever. It's bro, bang, bang all day. Like,
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, that was the one thing we did talk about during the break is like, I've definitely considered just not doing social media anymore because I was away for 3 weeks. I didn't miss it at all. Anytime I hopped in, I definitely felt my mood drop. I was like, and most of the interaction was pretty good. You know, I would check my mentions just to see what's going on. Like, I don't want to bury my head in the sand too much. I think it's that connection is really important.
Connection is important,
but there's a such thing as like too much. And I don't think I was an overuser of social media by any stretch. I was a infrequent user this last year, and even then, I'm just like, it's taxing, is what it is. It's extremely taxing, and I'm glad you're not subject to abuse. I definitely get that from time to time.
You get it. Yeah.
And I just shrug my shoulders now, man. It used to get under my skin. I don't really care anymore. I can't be bothered to care anymore because I think part of it's a sign of growth. It's like I'm getting out there more. And if I want to be out there more and I'm putting a creation out there at some year with my own game, like, you know, people are going to have shit to say about me, even peers of mine. And that's just going to be it. And I don't say that with ego or anything like that. I'm not above it. I'm just saying that I can't, if I were to get bothered about literally everything people said, I would go fucking nuts. I would. And it's something I talked about in a video before I went on break, which is like, what would you rather have? Is like you say something and it's just in the void, or like you're able to move the needle. It's like, I'd rather move the needle. And so if what I say pisses you off, I guess that's it. Like sorry you feel that way. And so, yeah, it's like, I feel like social media and now engaging with it is almost like actively seeking it out. Most people are really nice to me. And it's because I don't engage with like the shit. Like if I see you're like super negative and hateful towards me, it's like, why would I engage? Like, I'm happy to engage with people who are critical of me. I do that all the time. That's cool with me. When you're like, fuck this guy, come on, answer, bro. It's like, it's like, no, I'm good, man. Like, I'm really wild. Okay. Like,
I feel you. That's wild. That is wild right there. No, I feel I guess I just got to take a different look, because there's a part of me, and I want to talk to the realm of the Duke specifically, that I feel bad that I want to shout out to the cops who agree. That I want to interact with you guys more on the Discord and stuff like that.
That's my safe space. I love our Discord.
I got to do a better job. I'm trying. It's just that
it's therapeutic, bro. Going in there. It's like, not because there are our viewers, like they'll critique us, no doubt about it. They're critical of us, but like it's a really welcoming space, and I'm thankful for it. You should definitely, if you're feeling drained, that is the place to be, bro.
Yeah, and I think I probably will do that more and stuff like that, and see how that works for me. But yeah, I've been in this, push pull as far as social media, as far as how I want to handle it and interact as much as possible, or not. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes this year, and hopefully, like I said, more fun times in the realm of the Dukes, and more things I'm looking forward to for this show. So
100%.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm playing it by ear. Like, I'm not fully out on social media, but like one of the switch moments for me was when I posted a clip about Forspoken, about like, oh, like look at this dialogue. And I don't even think I even said anything critical in the tweet, but like there are a ton of people in the games industry calling me racist for posting that. And I was like, I don't need to fucking interface with any of you weirdos at this point. Like, I don't need to, like, this is your space and this is your place, and that's how you respond to a piece of dialogue. Like, okay, like, have at it. Like, I don't need to be a part of that. That much I can say I'm fucking above. So it's like,
I feel that.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. It was enough encounters this last year where I'm just like, okay, like some of you people are just not well, and I don't I don't need the interaction. I don't.
Some people be angry.
Yeah, man. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. The world, it's tough world out there. I get it.
Mhm.
You know, emotional displacement, healthy emotional displacement.
Facts.
Anyway, that's enough from us. That's the New Year's resolutions. That's our plans. Clearly, social media under our skins. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Very excited for this year. Just because I think again, this is going to be a massive year for Xbox.
Yes.
We're not going to be getting into the thick of politics and ethics and all that. We're just going to talk games this year.
You don't want to talk legal cases. You don't want to talk.
Yeah, Holdluck can take a year off. He's good. No need to do the surprise appearances. But yeah, seriously, I'm very, very excited about it because again, what I've dreamt with this show since it started is I just want to talk about Xbox games, man. Like that's my thing. I like talking about games. Like I like talking about, of course, the economics of games. And I like talking about the inflection points in gaming that we study closely. And that stuff's all important. But like I love talking games, and I feel like we've been robbed of that for years outside of Starfield and Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush. And now I think we're going to get like a full year of that. And here's hoping that we get like a developer direct this month or something like that. I don't know. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
What about you? On that. Streets are rumbling.
Oh, they really?
Yeah. Streets are rumbling on developer direct potentially soon.
Dude. I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah, they've got a lot to showcase, a lot to talk about. I'm with you. I think 2024 is going to be huge for them. I don't know if you've been paying. This is the part I have seen on social media, like Jason Ronald and guys like that. Like almost like this war cry with 2024, the Xbox logo, and So it's like a little war cry going on that they definitely got things in the chamber. They're excited to
confident.
show. Yeah, and what I've heard internally, it's like, yo, you ain't ready. I was like, oh really? Okay, we'll see.
Certainly, with all that they have in this the chamber, there's going to be at some point a massive blowout of content for us to feel overwhelmed over. So yeah, I'm excited for that moment. Certainly, we'll be back next week, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you tuning in. Cog, our hashtag.
Oh yeah, what are we doing? We were all over the place. This one, I'm trying to think. What was our main news piece?
We could just do like DD 2024. Set the tone, right?
Yeah, set the tone for the new year.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as we mentioned, we're not on social media much, but I check my mentions. I don't tweet much anymore, but I check my mentions. So you can use the hashtag DD2024. Let us know your thoughts. I'm at G27status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. If you don't want to use social media, we get it. Go head over to the YouTube comment section. Use the hashtag DD2024. Whoa. Let us know your thoughts on the episode. Positive, critical, whatever.
I want to see that.
Yeah, by all means. We would love to hear from you. And we look forward to hearing from you again next week with episode 158 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Take great care of yourselves, and peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.